Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 229, right here on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of Sifted, and you can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. Alongside me today to talk about really, really big stuff in the gaming industry is Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Oh, not much. Getting some pre-orders done.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. It's been quite an adventure trying to get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. It's been crazy.
The whole world has been in line overnight, it seems.
It does feel that way. For like several days, it feels like to me, actually. And you guys are probably wondering, why the hell is Shane back in the studio? How the hell did this happen? Well, that's because we don't have a TriCaster TD, and we're in a weird position because the way we do GameFace live is our TriCaster TD comes in here by his or herself. And I am home a couple miles away. Matt's at his place several miles away. So we have to be able to trust our TD to come in, be around really expensive equipment, lock up the door, and leave. And the problem is that we can't just hire someone off the street to do that. So that's the problem we have with GameFace right now. Jared does look like he'll be back pretty soon. We might have to do one more episode like this next week. But the good news is we're getting the episode out to you early, and it is a rare GameFace that is in 1080p. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. We have a lot of great B-roll on the show today that you guys will get to see in all its 1080p glory. So we have a great show. Just huge stuff has been happening all freaking week. And we're very excited to discuss it with you guys. Before we do that, though, here is a word from our sponsor. Do you live life outdoors? DeShazer Ryan Realty has a nice level lot just outside of Libby, Montana that's perfect for you. With access to Crystal Lake via shared dock and boat ramp, it's an ideal location to build the getaway home of your dreams or just park your RV. Enjoy fishing, paddleboarding, kayaking, boating, and more just a few steps away. It can be yours for just $72,500. No matter where you live, contact Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643 or DeShazerMT@gmail.com. Even if you're not looking for property in Montana, he can connect you with local realtors in your area who can help you. If you want to see more, head over to DeShazerRyanRealty.com. That's DeShazerRyanRealty.com. Thanks again to DeShazer Ryan Realty for sponsoring GameFace. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to figure out how to sponsor the show, just head to our Patreon at patreon.com/sifted. Also, I should mention, you can find Matt on Twitter at mkyle. If you can't see the graphics below his beautiful face there on the screen. It's time to discuss our poll of the week. This actually ended up becoming the poll of a week and a half because we didn't do an episode last week. So this poll has been up on the site for a while. No surprise, it is the poll with the most results or the most votes we've ever had. But there was a lot more time involved with that, so it's not a surprise. But the poll is very, very simple. Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S? That was it. Choose. Basically, after all the chips were on the table with the pricing and everything, we just wanted to get a lay of the land. And I'm not surprised by the overall results. Xbox Series X was the winner with 78% of the vote. Xbox Series S obviously got 22% of the vote. Are you surprised by that at all?
No.
No?
Especially not with our audience. I mean,
I actually thought that Series X might be higher with our audience. I thought it might be closer to like 85 or 90%, to be honest. I'm kind of surprised that many really, and I mean, our audience is the core of the core. I am surprised that many of our users were interested in buying the cheaper version, but it is so much cheaper that it is an enticing proposition, which is what we talked about last week. We do have.
If you don't have a 4K TV.
Yep. And again, I'm going to talk about 4K TVs when we talk about pre-ordering the PS5 and Xbox Series X, which is coming up in just a second. We do have great comments from you guys. Even though the poll was kind of lopsided, you guys did kind of express opinions that would represent Xbox Series S. The first one comes from With Sword and Gun. He or she says, I spent a stupid amount for a new OLED TV. Even though PS5 will be my main console, an extra $200 is worth the cost to take full advantage of the next-gen consoles and my new TV. I am in the same boat. I have finally started shopping for a 4K TV. I've reached the point where I have to own one. If I want to be able to do this job, I have to have a 4K TV at this point. So I've started shopping. If any of you guys have recommendations Feel free to put them down in the comments. You guys know tech just as well as I do, and you may have had more time to research than I have, so if you have any recommendations, put them in there. But Matt, do you think a lot of people are going to look at it this way? Everyone's going to this is like the big 4K upgrade for a lot of people?
I think like our people like us, our audience, will do that. I don't know about the public in general, but I think you're mostly dealing with people more like us in terms of like launch audience.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't surprise me if people were picking up 4K TVs alongside these things, or had already done so in preparation for these things, or had everything kind of on the same list.
Best Buy doing a big sale today on 4K TVs. So the retailers have figured it out, and they're starting to do promotions just for these launches. I, however, would recommend probably waiting until Black Friday. I don't know if we're even going to have like a normal Black Friday this year, but I guarantee the discounts and the deals are going to be there. So I would recommend waiting for that personally. But there are some good deals out there already if you want to jump right away. So,
although if the functioning of the websites the last week have been any indication, good luck.
Yeah,
So
you're
we'll
right.
see.
You're absolutely right. Great comment with Sword and Gun. Next is from Commander Fett. He says, and I believe it is a he, I chose the Series S, but I have a PC, so there's no reason for me to buy either, since Microsoft brings all the games to PC the same day as Xbox. And I think he also represents a pretty big chunk of gamers who are like, I'm not going to buy a PlayStation for whatever reason. I maybe would have considered an Xbox, but why do I need one now? Because I can play everything on my PC. And if you've invested a lot of money in a gaming rig, I could totally get it. I mean, if you spend a couple G's building a gaming PC, I could totally see why you would laugh at these brand new consoles. So I get that perspective as well.
I don't think Microsoft would disagree.
No, I think they're okay with that. That's what they want you to do. As long as you're buying the games and you're giving them money somehow, I think they're totally okay with it. Next up, from Ollie John, he says, the price per performance is on the X's side. Buying S is in long term will bring so many problems. So he's saying that, sure, Xbox Series S sounds like a good deal right now, but in 2 or 3 years' time, you're probably going to regret picking up the weaker console. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, certainly for my purposes, especially because I do have a 4K TV. I think that's the key, is if you don't have a 4K TV, the S is probably a safe bet, and don't plan on upgrading. Like, I think the S is a pretty safe bet. Like,
yeah. And by the way, today I saw at Best Buy an LED TV, 65 inches for $599. Now, it's not an OLED. It's not the bleeding edge crazy tech, but $600 for a 65-inch 4K LED TV? That's pretty tempting. So
yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily good, but there are a couple brands where if you get the right deal, like there was
TCL TVs are a really good deal. They're a company from China that uses the same panels as the more expensive brands, but they just manufacture them themselves and put them out. And they have, spec-wise, they're up to par with the best HD TVs, but they're like half the price. I'm not exaggerating, like half the price.
TCL is like, I did some research on these earlier this year for some people who were also considering this, and I ended up landing on TCL as my recommendation. Yeah, and they've been good.
We got my mom a new TV for Christmas last year. We finally replaced her old Panasonic 720p TV. And we got her a 60-something inch TCL, and she freaking loves it. It has everything else that all the other TVs have, all the connectivity, all that stuff. She loves it, and it's been great for almost a year now. So definitely a company to keep an eye on. I believe right now it is the world's fastest growing flat panel company. So people are slowly figuring it out. The last one comes from Tazka, and he or she says, I cannot choose one of the options. I just do not see the value at the moment to buy an Xbox Series S or X. Ask me again in 2 years when Microsoft first party is ready to go. Another benefit of waiting, you get the consoles cheaper. Again, hard to argue against that logic. I do wonder, now this comment was made before the big Bethesda news was announced. I don't know that it changes his comment that much, though, because the stuff from Bethesda is still going to be a ways down the road. So I totally get his perspective. I don't know that I could go without buying one or the other at launch, PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or S. Even if I didn't have to do it for my job, I would have a really hard time fighting the urge to buy one of these for sure.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't pass up the PlayStation 5.
Nope.
Like I could easily wait on the Xbox.
Because he's right. It is going to take a couple years for all this stuff to come to fruition. But then, and maybe then to Ollie John's point, when the good stuff is coming out, that's when your Series S is going to start looking a little long in the tooth.
Yeah, but also if you have a PC, like that's the thing is like there's no compelling reason to have an Xbox if you have a capable PC.
Yeah.
And you're willing to, upgrade it or keep up with the Joneses on that. Whereas PlayStation, when you really come down to it, there is one exclusive launch title between these two systems, and it is Demon's Souls.
Yeah.
Everything else is playable on other platforms.
Yep, and we'll get to that too. That has caused quite an uproar over the last week. I know on SIP that it did.
It's one of the weirdest launch situations of all time, where there isn't really a super great reason to throw that money at these things this year.
I know. I totally get it. And as I was clicking submit today for my Xbox Series X, it did flash into my mind. Do I need this? Even for my work, do I need it? And I do. So I took the plunge. I got them both. And that segues very nicely into the first topic for episode 229, which is console pre-orders. Thankfully, this is something that we only have to do once every 5 to 7 years. And I tweeted this, I believe, this morning, because it is a frickin' nightmare, a complete and utter debacle. I almost quit. I did quit. So PlayStation 5, let's talk about how they were both handled and then try to figure out maybe how you solve this going forward. So PlayStation 5, they had said, hey, next week pre-orders. The retailers were like, F you, I'm putting them up right now. And it just turned into this scattershot sequence of one retailer going
tomorrow.
Up. What'd you say?
They said tomorrow.
Right. It was supposed to happen tomorrow. But as soon as the thing was over, the retailers were like, F you, we're putting them up right now. And so
GameStop went rogue.
It went first. Yeah.
And then everybody else was like, well, we're not missing out on this. So they all went live.
And it just became like every 40 minutes, a new retailer was coming online with PlayStation 5 pre-orders. And the websites were a disaster. So I don't know how many times I thought 100% I had a PlayStation 5. And you would get to the end where you have to put in your address or the final page where you put in your payment details and click submit. I had websites hanging on every one of those pages at least 10 times a piece. Stuff's in your cart. You go to pay for it. They're like, there's nothing in your cart. It is crazy to me that all these websites were not prepared to do this properly and to ensure that their website did not crash. Now, ironically, the good news for me was that Best Buy crashed immediately. And I spent a lot of time on Best Buy trying to get a PS5, going through the process 5-6 times. Would never work. I'd always get to where I'd have to pay, and it would say there's nothing in your cart, or they'd say the item's no longer available. I gave up. I was so angry that I had spent all day trying to get a PS5, never got it. 1 a.m., I'm like, I'm going to bed. But something just told me to refresh Best Buy one last time. I hadn't even tried for hours. And I stumble back to the PC in the spare bedroom. I click refresh, and there it is. A link to pre-order it. I'm like, okay, I've been through this before. This isn't going to work. Click it. Everything just goes like lightning, and I get it. Boom. Just total luck. Me not giving up is part of it because I could have easily just crawled to bed and been like, I lost. But I gave it one last chance, and I got a PS5. Now, you had better luck, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did end up with the same situation with Best Buy, with the thing. It was in the cart, and it wouldn't check out. I must have just sat there trying to check out through the cart.
I hit that same button
40, 50 times.
Oh, I wouldn't quit. I was like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep clicking this freaking button.
Target was already gone by the time I even, because I'd gone out to the store, and I came back, and suddenly, and I sat down, and suddenly it's like, oh, yeah, the pre-orders are up. I'm like, what the fuck? I had no idea.
I mean, I don't have time to sit at home all day or night and just refresh Twitter.
Yeah,
some people do. I don't.
And I went through I did it. Walmart was the same deal. I had it in a cart and wouldn't say, oh, there's nothing in your cart, or we just. That's my favorite. Is Walmart had this thing like, we just found out this is sold out. I'm like, oh, you just found out.
Yeah, you knew that before I added it to my cart, bro.
Target never had anything. By the time I knew this was happening, Target was gone. And then at some point, Wario64, who I switched to like notification status on.
That's a good person for that for this week.
Popped up a tweet that was like, there's some on Amazon, and I clicked the thing on Amazon. It was literally like a link it wasn't even a link that took you to like the landing page of the product. It went to a thing and it just said, "Are you sure you want to add this to your cart?" And I said yes. And then it went to the checkout phase. There was a PlayStation 5 in there, and I clicked yes, and I got it. So that was that.
So we both got them around. After all the hassle, we both ended up scoring a PS5 and on day one. Well, I guess mine was day 2 technically because it was 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But
and the other one, so I did earlier get one through GameStop because after a while they put up their bundles.
Oh, right. Where you have to buy a bunch of stuff you don't want.
So it's like $750 bundle that includes like Spider-Man and that stupid demolition game no one cares about.
Probably a controller.
And, a controller, a charging thing, and like a year of PlayStation Plus. So I'm like, well, nothing else. Well, that's something.
Yeah.
And like no one was. Those are selling.
That stuff has value still, you know.
So I got it through that, and the other problem, there are 2 problems with that. The first is that it warned you on the things like this bundle will ship like 2 days after launch. Like so.
I saw one retailer wanted $5 extra to get it to you on launch day.
Yeah,
I think that was Walmart. Yeah. I made it through that step, but never got one.
Right. So I was like, okay, well, having one a couple days late with this stupid bundle is better than nothing. So I'll go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And I go through, and the site, the GameStop site is going so slow and glitchy. Like it's auto completing like the address and stuff, and it's like, I can't read it because the like the little widget is glitched. So the text is kind of garbled, and so I finally get through it, and it goes again like here, okay, here's your order number. Cool, I got it. And my billing address is correct, but my shipping address is my address in Los Angeles, but in Azusa, California.
Oh God!
And I'm like, are you? And
what a nightmare!
There's no way to change it on the website. So I can change my billing address, but I can't change the shipping address. So, and of course, everyone in the world is calling them.
Oh yeah, they can't help you right now.
So the next day, I went and I called them through their number, and they actually did. It was pretty simple.
They updated it.
They changed it to the correct address, the correct city, I should say, and it was fine. So I do have 2 on order. The bundle, if someone wants that, I will basically give it to them. If someone, if my friend, I have a friend who probably wants it, so she'll probably get it that way.
You won't have any problems getting rid of it.
I doubt it.
No, definitely not.
But then I got the Amazon one after. So the Amazon one I got between shipping it to Azusa and fixing the thing. So I got the Amazon one. And I'm like, okay,
just in
Amazon
case.
One
yeah.
Is like, well, the Amazon one not only is it just in case, but it's like Amazon will probably get that to me shipped at launch day.
Yeah.
Because I got my.
Whereas GameStop might show up later.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, GameStop basically guarantees it'll be later because of the
right
thing.
Right.
So it says it right on the thing. So and Amazon, I ordered the Switch and the PS4 launch through Amazon, and I got the same email everybody got for this one that says like, oh, it might not be there on launch day. There's shipping problems. It might happen. That's just an automated email covering their ass. Like I got both the Switch and the PS4 on launch day, no problem from them.
Yep.
So I don't, and I doubt.
So basically, you're telling people don't sweat it. If you got that email, don't sweat it.
If you got that thing on the day 1 or day 2 of pre-orders, I think you're getting one launch day.
Yeah. Well, they've also said that there's going to be way more than there were at PS4 launch. Yeah. So I wouldn't get too downtrodden if you haven't got one yet.
A lot of this is bots like buying up tons of stock, and the other part is allocation. Like no one knows what allocation is. Like the only stores we have allocation numbers for are GameStops, because like basically individual managers are leaking numbers, and like a lot of those GameStop stores are getting six PS5s for their store.
I saw some signs on Twitter where they're like, we have 4, so don't stand in line all night.
Yeah, it's crazy. And on top of that, like it seems like a lot of people wanted the digital one, but the digital one seems to be being manufactured far less than the disc one.
Interesting.
The rumors were 80-20 ratio in favor of the disc. So if you want a digital one...
I mean, that's right. That's what our data says unsifted from our poll. It's 80-20. That's pretty much what it is.
Supposedly what they're manufacturing them in that ratio. So if you want a digital one, it may be a harder get. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let's transfer over to Xbox Series X pre-orders. So it had the benefit of watching what happened with PlayStation 5 and seeing the response online where people were like, this is like inexcusable, unacceptable. And so it said, look, we're going to tell our retailers that they all have to start today, which is Tuesday, at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And they followed that. However, the problem is that when you give people the heads up, so Matt was talking earlier about scalpers and bots, when they know the exact time and day that stuff is going to go live for a pre-sale, they can line up all their tech to take advantage of it. And so I do wonder if today's sale of Xbox Series X was a whole lot of bots and scalpers, because
I think there was a lot of that.
It sold just as fast as PS5. It seems to be sold out everywhere already.
I mean, a little bit. Like I will say, some of it was just website fuckery. And I can't compare directly to Target.
Microsoft's own website crashed.
Yeah.
How can you do that if you're Microsoft? Not have enough servers spun up to support the pre-sales of Xbox Series X.
I mean, if enough people, especially if enough bots, are trying to like force their way through your queue.
Yeah, like, I guess it doesn't matter.
You're basically getting DDoS.
You're getting DOSed, yeah.
Yeah, and like, so I don't know. I can't compare directly Target because Target was sold out of PS5s and never got any more while I was trying to get, that was long gone by the time I realized PS5s had gone live.
Yeah.
But this one I tried to do Walmart and Target at the same time, basically, because Best Buy and Amazon didn't go up.
I know. Until way later.
And GameStop, I'm like, fuck that. GameStop had you in like a virtual line. I'm like, that's not going to work. And when
I made it through the virtual line and it crashed.
I got to the virtual line and the page it left, because it's like, oh, you're in line. Okay, here you go. Here's your thing you're waiting for, and it threw me up on the Xbox like plug and play recharger kit.
Because there was nothing left. That's why.
There was nothing there.
Yeah.
And then so on Target, I was trying to hit pre-order item and it wouldn't do any. It just didn't do anything. And then if I hit it more than once, it said you've got
it in your cart already. And then you go to your cart and it would say cart empty. Is that what's happening to you?
Cart and it had 2 in it.
Oh, I would have nothing.
And then it's like you can't buy 2 of these. I'm like, I know. I'm trying to delete
let me take one out.
It wouldn't delete them. So I was just sitting there and eventually I started. I'm like, I'll just get 2, I guess, if it lets me. And it wouldn't check out. And Walmart wouldn't check. It was the same thing as the PS5. Just we couldn't do it. It's gone.
I failed at both those places, and I went to Amazon and I started searching for Xbox Series X. And at first, nothing came up. I waited about 40 minutes. I searched for it again, and the page came up. However, if you clicked on it, it would say, "Oops, you found some place that doesn't work, and you shouldn't be here." And so,
dog pictures.
And here's the weird part, Matt. If I would click the search button on Amazon, it would not bring up the page. If I had Xbox Series X typed into search and hit enter, it would bring up the page. And I just kept refreshing it until finally the link appeared to buy it. I clicked it and I had it. I literally may be one of the first people to buy an Xbox Series X on Amazon. I'm sure like 5,000 people did the same thing I did and maybe slid in before me, but I was there the second it went on sale on Amazon, and I got one. So I'm good. I got both the PS5 and the Series X. And you got yours from Amazon as well?
Yeah, because I had the Oreo 64 had put up like landing page links anyway, and so I had the Xbox.
His link for Amazon was broken though.
It was constantly broken, but eventually refreshing it brought it up.
Oh, okay.
It was just here's the pre-order thing, so I just hit it and went through, done.
Yeah.
And I did send you the link to that afterwards.
You did, yeah. And I was like, I already got it. I was on it. And it's literally the second that I finished my sale, I went on Twitter and provided the link and said, Amazon is live, go, go, go. So I hope some of you guys got it from that.
I kept an eye on that after that pre-order link, that pre-order page stayed live for about 10 minutes.
Did it?
So it did not instantly go away on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then it did go into currently unavailable. And then about 10 minutes later, it came back to pre-order status, and then it went away after like 5 minutes.
So it lasted about 20 minutes.
But it didn't go PS5 fast on Amazon.
Okay.
Is what I saw. So
the question now becomes, how do you do this, Matt? Because we saw the PlayStation way, which was just let it be wild, and whatever happens, happens.
I mean, I don't think that was Sony's plan.
I don't
but
either.
it is
I
what
don't
happened.
either. I don't either. But well, I mean, Xbox managed to get retailers to come to heel somehow.
Sort of, but like they still didn't all go at the same time.
But
like,
as long as they didn't go early, I mean,
Yeah.
that was the problem for PlayStation. It's like people were just caught off guard. I mean, a lot of people will set aside time in a day to pre-order something like this. And if you're just going about your day working, and all of a sudden you see on Twitter from Wario64 that pre-sales are live, you're like, "What the f? What is going on here?" So
I'm just surprised that anybody followed GameStop's lead on that one, because it's like it's not like you're not gonna sell them.
I know.
Guys.
I don't
If you
get it
just
either.
wait till
Are you
they-
afraid you're not going to
Yeah.
sell all your PS5s?
Like, I
If
promise you're
anything,
gonna
it's
sell-
better to wait. Well, maybe it is better to put them up when other retailers are going, because maybe it keeps your site from crashing and you not looking so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it does, and like Amazon. I mean, Amazon didn't put theirs up for the PS5 for hours.
I know.
Like, it was
It was
much
way
later. And then Walmart did that thing where they put more up at like 6 p.m.
Yep.
and they were gone in like 30 seconds. Like
Yeah.
it was just before you could even get through the process of clicking to the cart. Like it was over. It was amazing.
I saw Cheap Ass Gamer said that, and I didn't even realize that, his retail site was big enough to even get like launch units, but he said that they do have an allotment and that 99% of the sales were the disc-based version. 1% was the all digital for PS5. So,
I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know why you wouldn't want. I mean, $100 off is nice, but like.
Even
you're
at
gonna
Cheap
want
Ass
that
Gamer,
disc.
people didn't want the cheaper version. So back to the question. What is the answer to this, Matt? And again, we're lucky we don't have to deal with this again. Well, a new Switch will probably come out here in the next couple years. But
Yeah.
for the most part, we have like a 7-year moratorium on this where you don't have to worry about it. But when that time comes back around again, if there is hardware, how do you fix this? Like, how do you fix... Like, I think Apple does a pretty good job of handling their pre-sales. They do store, and their website is up, and they take your orders, and it doesn't crash, and you go on your way. And then it shows up 3 weeks later or whatever.
The advantage that Apple has is they are only doing it through their own thing. They have full control over that.
All the retail chains, yeah.
Yeah. So with this, it's all disparate, and you don't know how Best Buy is going to handle this versus how Target's going to handle it versus how whoever. I honestly don't think there's a solution to this.
There really isn't, I don't think.
I think this is what we get. Also, I'll take this over 8 hours in the fucking cold waiting for a Wii.
Yeah.
Like this sucks. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, but I sat here refreshing a web page for an hour, sitting in November cold overnight, trying to like get a 360 in a airplane hangar. Like I'm fine.
See, I like that though. I like the launch nights where you get to hang out with all the other gamers and.
No, fuck that. Like, no, like, I'm not ever doing that again. Like if you give me a choice,
You won't have to, but
and this, like, not a contest at all.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I had a good time waiting for the week because I was with 12 of my closest X-Play friends.
Yeah.
And we were mostly drinking at the
bar.
Rock.
Yeah.
But like, no, like this is better. And like, I guess there's more of a fairness thing where like, oh, if you just waste a day of your life being in line that long, you're guaranteed to get one. But like,
Dedication doesn't mean anything with this system. Like, it really doesn't. And
you had people that were like getting Walmart orders through an hour after they were gone because they just kept clicking through.
And eventually the ones and zeros aligned and they got it somehow. It's crazy.
Like there's no perfect system. For
Yeah,
this.
I agree with you. I've thought about it for a week and I cannot think of another way to do it that would be much better than what's happening now.
If it wasn't the plague year, you could go in person and do some of the stuff at these stores, which also has been a solution in the past.
Yeah.
So that's like another issue there is like, by the time the next Switch comes out, part of this was all of us are stuck ordering this online for the most part.
Yeah.
Because we can't go, nobody wants to be in line with a bunch of possibly diseased strangers.
And it has nothing to do with gamers. I mean, that's just reality. Yeah, so I agree with you. I don't know that there's any perfect solution to this. We may not have to worry about it because who knows if there'll even be hardware next time. So,
although anyone who was worried that or trying to claim that the Xbox was not going to be in demand,
no. I mean, we don't really know what percentage of that was bots. We don't know for either, to be honest. I mean, it could be the same for PlayStation.
They're both going to sell out.
Yeah.
like,
Well, we
until
said
the end
that
of the year.
6 months ago, Matt, I believe,
Yeah.
on GameFace. We both said they're both going to sell out. So
There was one satisfying moment this morning where, because a ton of people are getting these things and instantly putting them up on eBay for $1,000.
Yep.
For double the price. And I don't know how successful any of them are being at actually selling any of that, at least not yet. But so today, traditionally, you put up the screenshot of your order, like to prove you got the order or something. As here, you're basically pre-ordering my pre-order, right? So one guy put it up, and he didn't crop the order thing properly, so it had too much information on it. And someone contacted Amazon customer service, and using the information from his screenshot, canceled the order.
Oh my gosh.
And so they like, oh, thanks, we got it. And they put up like a shot of their text conversation, Amazon chat, where they cancel the order. So that one guy trying to scalp the system for $1,000 or whatever, he's going to be surprised. Checks his email, I think.
Street justice. Or internet justice, Twitter justice.
Little vigilante internet justice for one scalper out there. That was a little heartwarming to see.
Don't scalp these things, people. If you end up with an extra one like Matt did, try to find somebody who wants it and sell it to them for cost.
And honestly, I saw that a lot, like on Reset Era and Twitter and stuff, where people are like in those threads where people are like, all right, I got one from Target. Now I'm trying to get one from Best Buy just in case. There's no just in case.
There's no just in case, dude.
They're not gonna kill people are like paranoid because like one guy got his Switch order canceled.
It's just a convenient excuse for them to scalp a console. That's all it is.
Yeah. And some people I know are just like, oh, if I get more than one, I'm just gonna sell them to my friends or use them for Christmas gifts or something. That's fine, but at the same time, it's like you wondering why everyone's gonna have trouble getting them. It's not just the bots; it's that people are putting 3 on order and then canceling the other 2 orders right before launch because they're afraid that one of the companies is gonna cancel their order. And I get it, but like at a certain point, you got to put your trust in the magic retail people. I don't know. Not everyone can have 3 PS5s pre-ordered, and just in case one of them fails, I don't know what else it's. And these things are gigantic, so if you actually go through and get them, you're not going to
be able to carry them yourself.
Holy shit, that thing's huge!
It is shocking how big it is. Yeah, I had to go measure my entertainment center. It's 15 inches when it's sideways.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to put this thing sideways.
I measured mine. My PS4 Pro is in there right now. It barely is half of the space. The PlayStation 5 is going to fill up the whole space. So
it's not even like just wide. It's deep too.
Yeah.
Like, there's that cartoon comparison that went up on Twitter a couple days ago, and the top-down shot. I'm like, you could put a place setting on that thing. Like you could eat off that as like a table. Like it's ridiculous.
For as expensive it is, you should be able to do that anyway.
I mean, I guess kudos to Microsoft for not being the biggest system for once. PS5 is it's monolith.
Huge. Yes, it is. Yep.
So they didn't make it black because that's what everyone would just be touching it in ape costumes and playing the big Zarathustra. It's like astoundingly huge.
Yep. So there you go. That's PS5, Xbox Series X pre-orders. It's been a nightmare. I'll be interested to see how all you guys fared if you got one, and if not, how discouraged you are. In fact, the poll of the week this week that is live on the site right now is all about your PS5 and Xbox Series X pre-order experience. So get in there,
I
vote.
want to know if anybody ordered it and like wasn't going to order it, but ordered it because like, oh my God, I can get one.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't
just
want one.
Total impulse buy because you're like, I know if I need to sell it, I can and make money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, did anyone get caught up in the retail hysteria and just be like, oh my God, I got it. Like, I don't want it, but I have it.
And now I'll sell it. Yeah. I mean, that's all what you can do with it. You'll make a ton of money probably. It's always dicey, though, because the shipments come in waves. And if you try to sell it when one of the waves comes in, you're not going to get much for it. If you wait whenever, the third week of November or the first week of December, when they're in between shipments, that's when you can really make some hay with it. I mean, I do not recommend that. I am not condoning that.
Yeah, you'll make your money back. I'm sure you'll get retail for it. But like with the Switch, I ended up with 2 because of a Target order that I didn't think worked. And Target actually delivered it because I thought I didn't think it happened, but because it didn't do anything, and then because I didn't get an email about it, I didn't get anything, and that's why I got the Amazon one later, and then Target sent it, like charged me and sent it. I'm like, okay, so I have another Switch. And I looked around. I was like, okay, anybody need a Switch? And no one wanted a Switch really. And like, I wasn't trying to like scam. I was like, paid me what I paid for it, and I'll give it. And like, no one. No, I was like, no, I'm good. And you know what? I finally got rid of that thing.
You gave it to it as a gift
a year ago.
Yeah,
it was a year ago. And I was like, I probably just kind of gave it away.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I mean, it's sat in the corner for forever.
Well, that is actually a perfect segue into our next topic, which is all about the latest big Switch release. And that game is Super Mario 3D All-Stars. It is a 3-game compilation for Switch that includes Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy.
Here's another Amazon success story for this game.
Did you get the discount?
Yeah,
so did I.
Physical copy, and it arrived, and then they gave me $11 back.
Me too. Yeah, I got an email like 3 days after I got it, and they're like, "Hey, the price is going down, so we're gonna give you $11." I was like, "Okay, that's awesome." I never even opened it. I had got it and just put it in with my collection because Nintendo sent me download codes for all 3 games. Well, they sent me one download code, and that included all 3. Have you been playing much of it this week, Matt?
I wouldn't say much of it, Bob.
Because you didn't have time, or because you didn't feel compelled to?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, I played. I got like 10 stars in each game, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Just to get a feel of it.
Yeah, you played a couple hours of each then.
I mean, my opinions on nothing really changed based on what I already thought about all 3 games.
Yeah, because you and I, we played these games when they came out. And not only that, like I played Super Mario Sunshine to like 100%. I got the Japanese version back when games used to come out earlier in Japan. My GameCube had a region switch on it, so I could play Japanese games. So I got it. It came out months before it came out here in the U.S., and I had 100%ed it before it even came out in the U.S. So,
I mean, I remember you playing it in the Game Lab.
I am very familiar with all 3 of these games. I played the living tar out of all of them. Matt, which one improved the most for 3D All-Stars, in your opinion?
I guess I'll say Super Mario 64 because I don't think the other 2 improved.
Really? I thought Sunshine was the biggest improvement.
I think Sunshine is garbage, and I think it's even worse on this.
Well, look, I'll say this.
I hate Super Mario Sunshine. I'm just going to confirm. And before I played this, I would have said it's my least favorite. I don't really like it, but it was fine, and I like kind of the design, and it feels nice because it's bright and sunny, and like it feels like the beach and da-da-da. No, I fucking hate this game.
I'll say this.
I cannot believe, because here's the thing, and I have the same problem with Mario Galaxy on this. Nintendo's reliance on control gimmicks ruins moving these games forward to systems that do not have the same control gimmicks.
Okay,
and
so
it's astounding to me how right I turned out to be about that.
Well, Super Mario Sunshine is unplayable when you first start playing it. It is so unintuitive. Nothing is where you think it's supposed to be. I remembered everything I could do in the game. I could not remember how to do it at all. I had to completely relearn how to play that game from scratch.
They inverted it. They inverted the
look
controls.
I know, and that would have me off at first. And the other thing too. Now, the reason I say Super Mario Sunshine is the most improved, when I say that, I say graphically, because it looks so much more crisp than it did playing it on GameCube. Now, the other part of it, though, is like the 2D stuff in the game, they didn't touch. So like the 2D graphics that come up, they're all blurry and stretched out. The pre-rendered cinemas for that game look god-awful because they haven't re-rendered them at a higher resolution. And they're stretched out to 1080p. They look terrible. The in-game visuals look better than the CG stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Which is really bizarre. But to me, Sunshine looked way crisper. But I also agree with you that it also showed you how bad some of the textures are in that game, because now you're not seeing them with like the Vaseline over top of them. You're seeing them exactly as they are, and some of them are not pretty. So I totally get your perspective, but to me, it made the biggest jump. And in that regard, my biggest disappointment is Super Mario 64. I mean, that is the quickest and dirtiest port of that game that you could possibly create, in my opinion. And I would also, and the other thing too, you're talking about how Super Mario Sunshine, The controls aren't intuitive. They don't work great. I could not control the camera in this version of Super Mario 64 the way I want to. I've spoken before about how when you got really good at that game, part of being good at the game was also being good with the camera and the C buttons. It was a skill that you learned as you played. You got good at, okay, I'm running into the screen and knowing when to kick it that extra little amount to get behind Mario. With the analog stick for controlling the camera in this game, it was just a disaster. Like, I found the camera, like, swimming wildly. Sometimes it would go into first-person view when I didn't want it to. I thought Super Mario 64 in this was pretty bad. I was pretty disappointed with it, to be perfectly honest with you. It doesn't even look that great. And then you said Galaxy. Now, Galaxy, to me, is the one of the three that translates the best, because the motion controls in that game are very minimal. Pretty much all you do is you use it to scoop up like the bits that are scattered all around the screen, and then you waggle it to fly through the gates that send you to the next planet or whatever. They're very minimal. And I thought they were. I thought the Switch. I thought they did, honestly, like amazingly well.
Well, I think. Are you playing with Joy-Cons?
Yeah.
Because I'm playing with a Pro controller.
Oh, okay. Totally see. I can totally see where that would be a problem.
Because you have to aim the Pro controller like gyro aiming to do the pick up the star bits and shoot the star bits.
Oh yeah, I could totally see.
The camera separately, and it's again what I'm saying about Nintendo's gimmick stuff. Like, it just ruins moving these things forward.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say this:
clean way to make. And like I miss Galaxy, like the wiggle is like a Y button or the X button now. And like, I mean, it all works, but like, I really have to think about what I'm doing in a way that I didn't with the original controls for on the Wii.
I'll say this: I really missed the trigger from the GameCube controller for Super Mario Sunshine. Being able to moderate how much water you're using, I feel like with the Switch controller, it's all or nothing.
Having to separate that out into two buttons because of the lack of the click.
Yep.
On the
right.
Like that.
Yeah.
Because like if you held it down and clicked it, then you were shooting.
You were stuck. Yeah. You stood
still.
And now you have to hold a shoulder button to stop. Yeah. It's crap. It's total crap.
I know this is petty, but like in the tutorial on Mario Sunshine, where Flood's explaining everything to you, anytime a button is different from what the button was on the GameCube, they just have the VO skip the button name.
I know. It's so lazy.
How quick and dirty was this? I mean, I read that like this thing didn't even start development until February.
I believe it.
Like that's how short it took. But I'm like, and then people on Twitter were like, "Here, I took sound from Flood's other lines and made the button names. Here's my thing." And it's like, yeah, that works fine. Like
Nintendo could have done that very easily.
Like, I don't expect you to hire the voice actor back, but like, especially in a character that has such a robotic, unnatural voice, you could have kludged something together for that.
Yep, for sure.
It just doesn't. Super Mario Sunshine by far is hurt the most by the transition of controls, which is weird because the GameCube you'd think has the most traditional controller of the three.
It's that trigger though. That trigger was important. I mean, they built Sunshine around the trigger. I mean,
it's the same with like trying to play like Rogue Leader on an emulator. You know, the boost,
the foils and the boost.
You click the trigger, and it's like without that, it just doesn't.
It's not the same.
Work.
Yeah,
and that game is always gonna be stuck like that.
Yeah,
like you can't really change that, and it's a shame.
Now, but to your point about Galaxy, I am playing with the Joy-Con, and it's great. It's way better than it was on Wii as far as tracking the motion and scooping up the bits and all that. It works great. So that part they did nail. I have not tried it with the Pro controller, but I can only imagine what a pain in the butt it is to play that game that way. Now, the other thing I would say,
other than that, it works. Like the control on it, controlling Mario and doing the jumping and doing like that all works fine with the control. It's just once you get into the kind of trying to emulate the motion controls, it's not a great time for me anyway. Because like just trying to do the gyro aiming while because the camera moves so independently of what you're aiming. Like you can recenter the cursor on it by hit. I think it's the
like
L
both
button.
Shoulders or whatever.
Yeah, one of the shoulder buttons. But like it's just awkward as hell.
I agree.
And it just doesn't need to be that way.
Now, the other thing about Galaxy, though, is I was like you, Matt. I don't even know if I got 10 stars on Super Mario 64 before I quit. Both Super Mario 64 and Sunshine, I played for a few hours. And once it got to the point where I started to work for it, I quit. Now, Super Mario Galaxy, on the other hand, I started playing that, and I got sucked into it all over again. That game is so freaking amazing. Like, I love what I really like about it is how you're constantly moving somewhere new. You get some of these planets are like the size of like a beach ball almost. And so you don't have to spend that much time on them. Then you go to another one that's bigger. Then you go to a medium-sized one, and you're just constantly moving. The pacing of the game is just amazing. The physics in the game, the jumping around I had forgotten just how sublime Super Mario Galaxy. It is just like next level 3D platform. I don't think it's been topped still.
No, well, that's because, and sorry, game historian, speedrun, whatever. Mario Galaxy is the best Mario game.
It's probably the best 3D Mario ever made.
Like, I can go back and forth between Galaxy and Galaxy 2.
Yep.
But there is a joy to Galaxy that is not present in those other two games. Again, part of it's because of the orchestra they use for the soundtrack, and like just the soaring nature of the soundtrack as you're early on, especially in the game, as you're first getting those first planets, and it's just sort of playing that kind of like huge orchestral themes and like flying everywhere, and like Mario seems to be having a good time. I guess it's the game where the wahoo stuff like actually fits the best.
It does. It makes sense.
Like you're flying through fucking space out of a cannon. I wahoo too. Like, hey, it's a great time. Like, it's a great time in a way that, like, even with the motion controls struggles, like, I have definitely played that one longer than the other two.
It's way better than Odyssey too. I played Odyssey to the end, and I probably got, I don't know, an extra 20 stars or something, and I was done. Like, I just wore out on it. Like, Galaxy, it's so good. I would say being able to play Galaxy at this fidelity is worth the cost of the collection alone.
Yeah, I mean, that's valid. Like, it's a great game that, honestly is probably worth full price to have in a more functional and high res form, and a more, basically, and portable is not bad either.
Yeah, you can play it portable. We forget that because you and I don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be a pain anyway. I mean, I guess in portable mode you can use the touch screen to pick the stuff up, and you don't have to worry about the motion controls.
Yeah.
So that might be fine.
Still probably not ideal though.
Because look, like Super Mario 64 is cool, but if you're not like a speedrunner or some kind of like retro fan, like I feel like it is as revolutionary as it was, it's still, you've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And
I 100%ed that game and then some. Like, I was over 100% on that game.
Nostalgia factor's there, but at the same time, it's like, do I really want to
go through this again? Yeah.
It is a little, I think 64 and Sunshine definitely show that it took Nintendo a while to figure out that whole camera thing.
It did, for sure. Yeah.
64 is one thing because it was sort of pioneering an entirely new everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can understand that. And like you said, back in the day, it was part of the skill set to be able to manipulate the camera properly with the C buttons, and that is harder on the analog stick.
It is, yeah.
But Mario Sunshine, like, the camera on that is actively hostile.
Yeah, it tries to take over. That's the problem. Yeah.
And like it still has the thing that Mario 64 has, where like if you're trying to move the camera, it doesn't move smoothly. It doesn't move in conjunction with your analog stick movements. It does that kind of increments of movement that 64 did, and it inevitably ends up behind a building or some kind of scaffolding. And like the second area where you have to like kind of cross all the gates and the wiring stuff to get to to get over the jumps of like the construction equipment to get to the area where the bloober is in the shipping crates.
Yep.
Like, there's that one section where you're trying to like kind of make like the camera will not give me the angle I need to see how far I need to jump onto the moving platform, and I keep missing it and like falling to the water, having to swim all the way back and climb all the way back.
That's really annoying too. Once you fall in the water in that game, how long it takes to get out.
At one point I fell like the second time over there, and I just swim all the way back and climb all the way. I'm just like, and I was texting my friend, and I was like, I forgot how much I fucking hate this game. And like,
I had forgotten about that weird underground tunnel system that's in it's really bizarre.
What a weird way to do that.
I know.
And like, and she's like, wow, we had a lot more patience back then. I'm like, we really did. Like, because like I have no fucking tolerance for this, like the camera in that game. It's such a fucking opponent.
It is. You're fighting against it for sure.
And so that's the order I went was Sunshine, 64, Galaxy.
I went in
because
chronological. I went
wanted to see
64, Sunshine,
first.
then Galaxy.
Because Sunshine was the one I was most curious about
Mhm.
because it's the one that I dislike.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, maybe will this change?
Maybe
my
this will
mind?
fix
How
it.
will feel?
Nope.
Nope. No. Because like just I'm more forgiving about the camera of 64 because it was the first. And like 64, it just works better.
Well, the geometry is more simple,
Yeah.
so it doesn't get caught on stuff like
Also,
it does. And
the level design is better. Like everything
is.
about that
Yeah.
game is better
It
than
is.
Sunshine.
It's a
except
better
the
game.
graphics.
Yeah.
And I do still love the graphics in Sunshine. I think I love the short sleeve plumber suit. I love
the water,
the water,
the
and, like,
music.
the haze that's around
The
it, like, you
vibe
can
in the game is
smell
good.
the beach.
Yeah, they
Like,
do nail the
art
vibe of it.
direction in that is fantastic.
Yeah.
But
But then you got to
the
play
rest of it I just can't deal with. Like it's annoying.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is like when you taking away the GameCube trigger, like the cleaning isn't satisfying.
I agree 1,000%. I couldn't believe how much the GameCube controller made a difference for that game.
It really was. I mean, you can definitely feel that they designed that game around that controller, and when you take that controller away, there's something missing.
Absolutely, I agree. Would you say though that this collection is worth buying though?
I mean, look, most people don't hate Sunshine the way I do.
Yeah.
So I think generally you're going to get a nice, if slightly unambitious version of one of the best games ever made in 64. You're going to get what I think is probably the best Mario game, maybe just the best 3D Mario game. And I go back and forth between Galaxy and Super Mario World. But like, and Galaxy looks amazing. Like one of my biggest gripes with the Wii is that its image quality output is rather poor, especially compared to the GameCube.
Yep.
And this, Galaxy basically now looks the way it should look.
Yeah.
It looks like how what people were running it on a Dolphin emulator.
Yeah,
back in the
that's what
day.
it looks like. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It does
holds
that
up.
Game
Yeah.
It does that game justice in every way, and it's still tons of fun, and it's still got that like. I don't know any other way to describe it. Like great games and like great movies have this too, where like there's a moment where like you get a little into it and sort of it clicks in your brain that what you're playing or what you're watching is amazing.
Yeah.
And you get that sort of feeling of like that you trust it.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
Oh, you're in the hands. Like you're held. Like, you know that this game or this movie's or this show is going to take care of you.
Yep.
And like Galaxy has that, and it's great, and it still has it. 13 goddamn years later.
Yep.
Which not a lot of games can claim.
Amazing game. And
big
the other thing
deal.
too is this isn't going to be on sale for forever. When does it stop? In March, I think.
March 31st.
Yeah.
March 31st.
So you only have a certain amount of time to buy it either digitally or physically.
Right.
So
here's the thing, like just buy digital and then buy a physical copy and save the physical copy for like a year and sell it for what you paid for both of them together.
yeah, you'll make your money back easily. Yep, very quickly.
Absolutely will.
Yep. So that's 2 thumbs up from Matt and I. Even though the other thing too, I don't know if you noticed in Mario 64, there's other issues like if Mario comes out of a door, there's this weird jump frame that happens before it cuts to the scene of him in the room. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I had to go back and I started going in and out of the door over and over again to get B-roll of it. There's some weird thing that's going on in the game.
Well, there's a couple differences in it because it's not the version of the game we had.
Right.
What they're using is the Japanese re-release of a fixed version of it. Basically, it was a later release. This is why, and it used the English voices and stuff like that. It was sort of I guess Super Mario 64 USA release a little bit, but it had some other name in Japan. I don't remember because it's a Japanese word I don't remember. But this came up because people noticed in the final fight with Bowser, there's that line when you throw him and Mario says, what can only really be heard as "so long, gay Bowser."
Yeah, so long, gay Bowser.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like the Italian weird vowel at the end of "so long." So long.
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be that. But the way it's said just sounds like "so long, gay Bowser."
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And they took it out, right?
So it's not in it. And it was like, oh my god, they censored the game. Well, no,
no, it's the other version.
It wasn't in this release because in Japan his name isn't Bowser.
Yeah.
It's Koopa.
Yep.
And so that's why that's not. So there's a couple things that are fixed in there. That was also a funny thing where like, speedrunners use the backwards long jump all the time as like a
so do I.
thing.
Yeah.
And that's not in this game. They fixed that basically, and they fixed the They fixed the way you could use it to glitch through doors, basically.
Yeah. So speedrunners are pissed off because the stuff that
speedrunners figured out another way to do it.
Oh.
Like there's a video already where like this guy figured out that like if you just wall jump back and forth every time he wall jumps, he picks up a little speed, and so if you just do that for like constantly for like a minute, he picks up so much speed that he still clips through the wall, and you can bounce your way right into the boss door and finish the game again instantly. Never try to outsmart the speedrun community.
Yep.
Like, they'll get there. Like
that's why they're speedrunners in the first place. They already figured it out.
And Mario 64, for all it's a genius, is full of holes. So they were going to find it. And it's always fun to watch them break that game in various weird ways.
Yep.
So I think that what you're describing there, I did notice that too, and I think that's I think that might be something that's unique to that version of the game that wasn't in the version that we had.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about this game in particular is like, we all played that game to death. Like we played that, that was probably the first game almost everyone had on the N64.
Yeah. And it's all you had for like 3 months.
And like,
so you played it to death.
Other people came over to play it. Like it was the most like I have never seen in my life people who I'd never seen play a video game in front of me came over to play that. Like
my mom loved it.
I knew came over to have a turn on Mario 64. It was a revolution in terms of interest, I thought.
Yeah.
People who like played Mario when we were kids and stopped playing video games in high school, because this came out when I was in college. I was 20. And like it was like the Christmas break, and like people were coming over, like like my friend Michelle and people who are like hadn't played Mario since like we were in middle school, and she's like, I want to try this, I gotta try this. And
my mom played it and lost her mind. That's just how crazy it was back when it came out.
Even my dad, who could not have cared a single bit about video games whatsoever, saw me playing that and was like, that looks different.
Yeah.
Like it was.
You have to be an idiot not to see the revolution. Absolutely. So it is revolutionary. It does still hold up. Don't get me wrong. But to me, it's not the most important part of this compilation. It's just a bonus, and it's a great bonus.
I do wish it was widescreen.
Agreed.
Like, I don't
it's 4x3.
Any reason it had to be 4x3.
I don't either. It definitely should be able to draw that geometry, for sure.
Yeah. The Switch can probably handle that.
I mean, at this point, a pregnancy test could draw that geometry. So
the only downside of the collection is really just the quick and dirty nature of it.
Yeah.
Like it's the fact that they're charging $60 for this is
a little cheap.
Real Nintendo.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, it's time to move on to what was probably the biggest thing that happened since we last saw you guys here on GameFace, and that was the final pre-release PlayStation 5 showcase. Now, I realize it's been almost a week since this happened, or actually more than that, but we have not had a chance to talk about it, and gigantic stuff happened during this thing, so we're going to talk about it. Probably the easiest way to discuss this is just go in chronological order, because I think that's how you guys will probably remember it.
Oh shit, this happened, didn't it?
Yeah, it happened.
I know we didn't do a show last week, but like this feels like forever ago.
It wasn't though, really. No, I mean, it was last Wednesday.
Because it was, and then that's when we would have done the show, and then that's when pre-orders went live.
It hasn't even when we're recording this right now. It hasn't even been a week, to be fair. Yeah, but for when people are watching this, because we have to assemble this show by hand, it's going to take forever.
Time has no meaning anymore.
It really doesn't. It's really hard. Yeah, I agree with you. But anyway, we're going to go chronologically through this presentation because we want to talk about how they presented everything as well. So first thing, they come out, they debut Final Fantasy 16. Talk about a way to kick things off.
Yeah, it was rumored, but it was just like, oh, you're just going to start there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I really thought that was going to be like the one more thing, where we get to the end, they're like, oh, we knew it was going to happen, and we're at the end, and we're like, wait a minute, where's Final Fantasy 16? And they're like, wait, there's one more thing, and then there it is. But no, they kicked off the show with it, and I was very happy with what I saw, Matt. To me, it looks like they are taking older fans' opinions to heart with this entry in the franchise. It looks to be a bit of a throwback to the Final Fantasy 9-ish era as far as the setting and the character models and the art style that they're using for it.
Well, here's the thing that I'm looking for. I mean, the art style, I mean, that all looks good. Here's the thing that caught my attention on this game. The combat director is the guy who did the combat for Devil May Cry, Dragon's Dogma, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah.
in.
Smart move. They're like, we can't figure it out, so why don't we bring somebody in who's already figured it out?
Like all that other shit, window dressing.
Yeah.
This one's gonna have good combat.
Yeah, that's really, really important, especially for a game this big. I mean, if it will be this big, because they're saying it's coming out pretty soon. Do you believe that, Matt?
I mean, pretty soon means a lot of things to Square Enix. But I bet we'll be
especially to Square Enix.
I bet we'll be playing this before Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2.
That's a good question. That should have been our poll of the week. Which will we play first, Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2?
My bet is 16.
I don't know, man.
Nomura
After 15,
forever.
I mean, this could be another case where they get halfway into development and they bail on it and start it all over again. Like,
I don't think it will be because it's not the same people.
It's not. You're right.
They hired some professionals on this one.
Are you concerned at all that the director of the game comes from the MMO Final Fantasy games instead of the more single-player focused games?
No, because Final Fantasy 14 is the best Final Fantasy thing going.
It is. I mean, it's really good.
I have no doubts about the team they picked for this, really, between the combat director and the game director. Like, exactly right. Because let's not
that caused them to have to come out and say, though, that it was a single-player RPG. Yeah. They had to release a statement.
Which is fine. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, some of the other games they've made seem to forget that sometimes. And, like, let's not forget the common thread in terms of, like, waiting a long time for Final Fantasy stuff, which is Tetsuya Nomura.
Yeah.
Like, he's not involved in this, so we might actually get this thing in a timely manner. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good point.
Maybe there will be fewer buckles. How about that? That's everybody looks great in this game. All the monsters look. I can recognize what these things are supposed to be.
I know. I hear you.
I mean, I am floored by this thing. It looks like a Final Fantasy game.
Does, man. Like, it really does. For the first time in a long time. Like Titus and all those characters, that was never Final Fantasy to me.
No.
I
just wanted Final Fantasy to stop being like Tetsuya Nomura's like binder doodles. Yeah. And I think we might finally be there.
Yeah.
You know,
how do you feel about
was 12 and there's a little bit of 12 in this one in terms of the visual design.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the, I don't know if we want to call it bumbling, but kind of the bumbling of the messaging over the exclusivity for this game? Because I feel like after it ended, everyone thought it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Right. It's not the only time we'll mention that.
Yeah, we're going to get back to this in a minute or two.
Some trouble with this messaging.
Yeah.
I thought was very interesting. They were very unclear about this for a couple of things.
Yeah. So as it turns out, it's a timed console exclusive. Yeah. It's also coming to PC.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, people just thought it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And so, yeah, you're right. The messaging in this thing in general, I thought was pretty poor, just across the board. After it was over, someone on Sifted was like, "Oh, like I feel like I learned a lot," and I was like, "You're going to learn a lot more over the next hour," and that's exactly what happened. They just didn't include a lot of details in the presentation that they should have, that we were left to have to discover on our own after the fact. I was not a fan of that stuff, and Final Fantasy 16 was just the beginning of it. Next up, another game that's caused some consternation. Spider-Man Miles Morales. It is, in fact, a launch game. It will be there day and date with PlayStation 5. However, probably the biggest controversy coming out of this entire event was something that Matt just alluded to, which was people were very upset that 3 games in particular that they thought were only going to be available for PlayStation 5 are, in fact, coming to PlayStation 4 as well. This is one of them, Spider-Man Miles Morales. The new Sackboy game is the other one, which I don't think a lot of people are going to care about a lot, but the one that really twisted people's knickers was Horizon Forbidden West is also going to be released for PlayStation 4. Now, I will just say right off the bat, I have no idea what these people are angry about, other than the fact that if maybe they felt PlayStation was being intentionally misleading. And if that's how you feel, then I could understand being a little upset, because nobody likes being lied to, or no one likes being intentionally misled by someone else. So I can understand you might be a little tiffed by that, but otherwise, I have no idea why people are so angry about this. You saw these games a couple months ago.
They think that they're mad, especially in terms of Horizon. They're mad because they think that having to make it run on PlayStation 4 will hold it back somehow.
But here's what I was going to get at is we saw all these games when Sony debuted them the first time. Nobody was like, these games look like the PS4 is holding them back. You loved those games. Yeah, you loved Miles Morales. I got in an argument with someone on Sifted about whether Forbidden West looked better than Ratchet and Clank. So this to me, I don't know if it's like double agents, like Xbox fanboys acting like they're angry over this to try to make PlayStation look bad. I don't know. I honestly just personally cannot understand why people would be angry about this.
I don't think it's double agent ex-boy fans. Sorry, ex-boys.
Sorry, ex-boys.
That's a different podcast.
It is. Yes, it is.
But I think it's because like you want to be these people want to be able to say I spent $500 on this system and I get to play this awesome game and you don't. You dirty PS4 peasant.
Do you think that's what it is? Like I'm struggling, and look, I honestly just didn't want to go there.
I think the mix between that and people who think that if you let it run on, if you make it so it can run on PS4, it's not taking advantage of PS5 properly.
They were fine with these games when they saw them. They thought they were gorgeous and beautiful.
And they still look good.
And they are
fucking amazing.
Yes, they still are. Get over it, people. You're acting like children. It's silly. I think.
Okay, and it'll get there. And also, like, just having this thing run, it's going to be the difference between, like, medium settings and ultra settings on a PC. Like, you'll see the difference. As soon as that ray tracing turns on, you will see the difference. You'll see the money you spent on the PS5 at work in Horizon Forbidden West. I promise.
Yeah.
I promise it won't look like the PS4 version.
And it's just those 3 games. That's it. Yeah. The rest aren't. Again, I struggle to understand where the outrage is coming from for that.
But it's funny to me. I don't remember what the order of things were, so we'll get to it. The big daddy that is not on PS4 is fascinating to me.
It is. Yep.
And I think I have a conspiracy theory about that one too.
Okay. Next up, Hogwarts Legacy. It is the open world Harry Potter action RPG that we have been talking about on this show for literally 2 years. In fact, I think Sifted is the only website in the world that still has the leaked trailer up because we're so small that they never came after us and had us take it down. So
it's just like Cloud City, small enough that the Empire doesn't notice you're there.
Seriously, that's exactly what happened. We've had it up this whole time. If you guys were smart enough to go to the game page and look at it. But anyway, we got the official unveiling, and as it turns out, what was it called back then? Like Harry Potter Magic Awakened or something was the original title for it?
I don't remember. It was some clearly placeholder.
Yeah.
Well, clearly not what they're going to call it.
But it's the same game because there were some shots in this trailer that were exact shots from the leaked trailer from 2 years ago. So it's
definitely the thing that thing that leaked was a proof of concept.
Yep,
for. No
absolutely. What do you think, Matt? Now that we've really got to look at it.
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of my friends I have friends who are younger, just because, you work in production, you're always mixing with a lot of different age groups. So my friends who are in their 20s are all like, well, they're torn because it's the Harry Potter game they've wanted their whole lives. Yep. Literally their whole lives in a couple of cases. But they don't feel okay supporting it because J.K. Rowling has turned out to be a transphobic dickhead.
Right, yeah. So really disappointed to learn all that.
And she did it again today. She put up a thing about some shirt she liked, and it was like, this witch doesn't burn or something. And the shirt's being sold at this web company that's just full of like you can buy a set of like coasters and stickers that literally say notorious transphobe. I'm interested to see how, because Warner Brothers has already tried to distance themselves from her on this and said like she didn't contribute directly to this, she didn't write anything in it. Right. And it was like, well, she still gets royalties, right? They're like, well,
you can't avoid that. She created it, so
I have a lot of friends who are like talking about like, oh, what can we do? I'm like, look, like if I buy this game, I do want to play. I mean, I do like Harry Potter one way or the other, and also like I just like the idea of a wizard school game. Like the concept of the game, even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, seems pretty cool to me.
Learning magic, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so if I buy this, if were I to buy this game, I would probably, buy it and then like donate an equal amount of money to a trans charity to ease my conscience.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
And I know some friends of mine who have bigger social media presences who think, well, we'll try and get a copy from Warner Brothers for free or a code, or we'll buy it from like secondhand or like from an independent store, and then we'll do like a stream where we like raise money for charity.
Yep.
To basically counter that sort of thing.
Okay. It works.
So I think that's what and a lot of people are just going to say I'm not going to play it at all, which is also fair.
Yeah.
Buy it secondhand, no money goes to her, whatever. It's a whole thing, and I guarantee you, internally, Warner Brothers I wouldn't be surprised if Warner Brothers makes some kind of like charity donation deal to make people feel like they're offsetting it somehow, and like sort of say like we don't agree with what she says, but we can't really.
But we're gonna make this game, damn it. So we're gonna bite the bullet.
Like I don't buy the whole thing. It's like, oh, you don't support the developers, or you do. That's like the developers got paid already.
Yeah, they're paid no matter what. Yeah, they may not be able to make a sequel if I don't buy the game, but they got paid.
That team is gonna get, is just gonna get put on another project. They're not going to get shut down or anything.
Yeah.
That's a permanent team at Warner Brothers. And the other thing, of course, is like, assuming that enough people would have a problem with this to the point that they don't buy it to impact global sales may be a naive thing to think.
Yeah.
Like this thing's probably still going to sell 10 million copies.
Oh, yeah.
Because the vast majority of people are ignorant of what she says or don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really aware of it until you brought it up. So I would have had no idea. I mean, I probably would have saw it eventually somewhere, but...
Yeah, she is just an ongoing. She is an ongoing anti-trans people thing going on, and it's been going on for a couple of years, and she's really doubled down during quarantine. So yeah, I understand why someone would not want to support it. I don't want to support it because of how she is. If you think that's, if you think that you're listening to this and you think that's stupid, keep it to yourself because I don't want to hear it.
There you go. Next, they showed the first campaign footage for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. And then they announced afterwards that there was going to be an alpha for the multiplayer that was coming up that weekend, which was just the weekend that passed. I'm not going to get too much into that because I played the alpha, and it is a separate topic in today's GameFace. But I think what I would say before we move on from that, though, is that it did show that the partnership between Activision and PlayStation for Call of Duty is still intact. However, it does not seem that it's egregious as it has been in past years. Obviously, PS4 owners did get the alpha, and nobody else got that, and that was a pleasant surprise. And they are going to get the beta a little earlier. But there was no mention of like DLC or any of that stuff coming to PlayStation first. It really looks like you're just going to get early access a little earlier on PlayStation for Cold War, which I think most people are okay with if you think about the money that's exchanging hands there. And again, we'll talk about Black Ops Cold War here in a minute. And anyway, next up was Resident Evil Village. We got a new trailer for that. Didn't really reveal any new features or really much of anything. It was just kind of another montage cut together of scary stuff. Yeah. But it looks great, and I'm really excited for it. And it really, really is still giving me that RE4 vibe, which I'm all about. So that game looks awesome to me. I'm really excited for it. It still just has the 2021 date with no quarter or anything like that. So still kind of in the dark about when we'll actually get to play the game, but
the Resident Evil games do seem to be a Q1 tradition.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I would not be surprised if February or March that game hits PS5 and Series X at all. But it's looking great. I'm really excited for it. I think they're in the right wheelhouse with that game, and I think they should stay in that wheelhouse. Next up, something that became more confusing after the huge news from yesterday, and that is that Deathloop showed up again during a PlayStation 5 event. It was at the debut event. It was also at this showcase. I have no idea why PlayStation has latched on to this game from Arcane, but it has. And then we find out that that studio is now owned by Microsoft. So they have gone all in on this game, and the game does look cool. Basically, you play as an assassin, and you're playing the same loop of time over and over again, trying to kill all your targets in X amount of time instead of just one. So it's a unique concept. I like the style of the game. I like the setting of the game. It looks good. but it's been profiled now into PlayStation events, and now essentially it's owned by Microsoft. So I don't know, and we'll get into that as well later on in the show, what Microsoft is going to do with all Bethesda's games going forward.
I mean, my guess is that the deals that are in place already have to continue to be honored.
Yeah, and I think Phil Spencer said, in fact, that any deals that are currently in place will be honored by Microsoft going forward. So
I guess it's a good thing the deal Sony was going for to make Starfield exclusive didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because that was apparently in the works.
We also wonder, too, is like, okay, they featured this game twice, so do they have like a timed exclusive on it?
Hard to say. I mean, that seems to be sort of their MO.
It seems like it would be. But then if you're Microsoft, that's weird. Even though that is a deal that you have to honor, the game that you own coming out on PlayStation first.
Here's the thing, though. I'll make a bold prediction. This game is going to bomb hard.
You mean just not sell? Yeah.
Not sell. I think it might be great. Like, it could be a great game. Like, it looks like this. Here's the thing about this game. It's real fucking hard to explain what it is.
It is. Well, you heard me fumbling through it. I'm like, you're this hitman, and you can kill all the targets, and I don't know.
The problem is that if you just watch it, you think it's just another shooter.
Yeah.
Like, explaining why it's special is very hard to do in a quick ad or a print thing or something.
Yep.
Like, my thing is like it's a very high concept, very cool idea that is almost impossible to get across quickly to someone who has never heard of it. And I think it's going to be borderline impossible to make it to demonstrate in like a 30-second ad why it's special.
Yeah, it doesn't have there's no elevator pitch for it. You have to. No. It takes too long.
I think that is going to torpedo it. In the end. And so if for one thing, even if Microsoft does honor whatever timed exclusive thing, I don't think it'll matter for anyone.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be a runaway hit. It's not going to be defined the PS5. It's not going to be identified with one platform one way or the other. It's just going to be like Prey, where you're like, this game's great. Why didn't it sell? I don't know. Like, it's another Bethesda. One of the reasons Bethesda's probably gotten caught.
It's exactly why. And Deathloop kind of started a run for this presentation where I felt like it kind of sunk down to the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it sagged in the middle a little bit.
Sure. So right after Deathloop came Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, which, okay, it's a great action game, and it does look significantly better on PlayStation 5, but did we need like a 3-minute trailer for it? Like,
probably not.
It literally could have been like 30 seconds. Show us what it looks like running on PS5. Good to go. It went on way too long. It does look good, though, and it is a great action game.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'd buy it all over again.
No, I would definitely not buy it all over again. It did sell pretty well. I think the last sales numbers I saw for it were like 4 million or something like that, which is good, but it also means that there are a lot of people who have still not bought it. So I understand why they're doing it, and I even understand why they showed it. I just don't understand why they focused on it for so long. And then next was Oddworld Soulstorm, the next Oddworld game, which has been a known quantity for like 3 years now. They did take their sweet time in actually showing the gameplay for the game, and we got a lot of that in this trailer. But there were like teaser trailers and cinematic trailers and all this other stuff that's been around for this game for a long, long time. And in all honesty, it doesn't even look that great either. I know why they included it, because Oddworld was one of the original PlayStation kind of benchmark releases. It was used in marketing and promotion for the original PlayStation a ton. Lauren Lanning, obviously, has great relationships with the people at Sony. I get why they did it. It just, again, I just felt like it sagged. It didn't fit with the rest of the games that were in the presentation. It didn't look as good as the other games, or feel like it was innovative enough to kind of overcome its presentational shortcomings. So I was surprised to see it in here. It didn't do much for me. I'm not that excited for it. I don't know. It just seemed like this whole section here of like 3 or 4 games, it dragged, I thought.
No, I have always disliked the Oddworld games. Not necessarily for what they are, but just because it's just something about the look and the world.
It's an ugly game. It's an ugly art style. Yeah. I think they want you to be repulsed, but that's not what you want when you play video games.
I have zero affection or nostalgia for these things.
Yeah.
And it was just intensely dull.
Yeah. It looks like like Lemmings, the game.
Yeah. It also just doesn't look just like a prettier version of what you made in 1996 or whatever.
Agree 1,000%, man. Yep. Did not look good. Was not exciting. Next up, where it really hit rock bottom, Five Nights at Freddy's security breach. Again, I understand why. It's like the biggest game streamer franchise in the world. Cheap jump scares, cheap horror game. It's big. There are toys at Walmart.
Where PewDiePie made his name.
Yeah, I guess it kind of was. I mean, a lot of streamers, I think the reactions to that franchise have...
that was the original Twitch streamer reaction game, pretty much.
Yep.
It's just like, you motherfuckers never played Night Trap before?
Yeah, I know. Or just a good horror game where there's legitimate scares.
I do appreciate the kind of the success story of that guy because it was made by one dude.
Yeah, of course.
He was making these go nowhere Christian educational games, and then was upset that all the games that were selling were these violent. He's like, I can do scary, violent things, and he just made this, and it's just it's so boom.
And now he's literally a billionaire.
Spite works, kids.
That made me laugh way too hard. You're right. Oh, life is grand sometimes. Next up, Demon Souls. This is what Matt was alluding to earlier. This is a launch game, which I thought was a pleasant surprise. Not only that, this game is not releasing for PlayStation 4. Matt, Kyle, take it away.
Or anything else.
Yeah.
So here's the weird. So what happened with this was this ran and cool, awesome, and then Keeley tweeted it's actually a launch title. I'm like, oh, didn't that surprise me?
Why wasn't that included?
That seems like it would have been important information to throw in at the end of that, but okay.
Yeah.
But so that Miles Morales and
well, then they screwed up the trailer, and at the end it listed PC.
Not even just that, because what happened was I was in a chat with a bunch of other guys I know, and a lot of these guys are developers. These are industry people. Yeah. And one of them was we were talking about Demon Souls. I'm like, there's your incentive to buy a PS5. And the one guy was like, it's coming on PC too. And I'm like, where the hell do you see that? He's like, here's the end of that trailer.
Yeah, it was in the trailer, and they said it was a mistake. How do you screw that up?
And so I looked at the end. I don't know.
How was that never caught?
So it says at the fine print at the bottom basically says timed console exclusive. Also coming to PC.
Yeah, that's not
wrong.
Yeah,
I was like, that's definitely wrong because Sony's funding this. It's not it's not going to be timed to come to Xbox or Switch.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know about the PC part, but the console timed exclusive part is definitely wrong. And eventually it turned out that basically it was a production error.
How do you screw that up? How does the producer, the editor, whoever it was at PlayStation who had to sign off on it from software? Blue Point? How did none of the... I really am struggling to believe that it was a mistake.
I don't struggle to believe it's a mistake because, people aren't looking at that. You look at these things, over and over, and it just goes past your eyes. It's boilerplate stuff. Someone grabbed the wrong template.
It made it past so many eyeballs, though. It's just...
Because you're not looking at it. All you see is the blue thing at the end. It's like, okay, it's the blue thing at the end. Done.
But we saw it, and it's not our job to look for that stuff. You're a producer. You know it's your job to look for that stuff, Matt. It's your job.
But we saw it because we wanted to know when it fucking comes out.
It's just bizarre. I honestly would not be surprised if it is really coming to PC. And they just didn't want to announce that yet. After they saw, the anger.
It's not. This is a PS5 exclusive.
I would definitely bet you $5 if you were here to shake your hand.
If it comes out on PC, I will buy you a copy of it.
Okay. That's fair.
It is not coming to... if it might...
No, I don't think it's that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be even a year or even maybe 18 months after the PS5 version comes out, but I absolutely believe that this game is coming to PC, and I also believe that at one point it was decided that they were going to share that. And then I believe that after they saw the feedback from it, they were like, oh crap, okay, we shouldn't have announced that yet. Let's just act like we screwed it up. And 2 years from now, when it comes out, people won't care about this anymore and blah, blah, blah. Having worked in production for so long and worked in the industry for so long, I just cannot accept that was just a mistake. I just can't.
I can, 100%.
I mean, just the producer alone, Matt, should be fired if he missed that.
Maybe, but here's what I'm saying. If there's a PC version of this game, it has not started work yet.
Yeah, I might believe that.
That whole thing is a complete production error.
All I'm saying is there's something to it. It's not just somebody
missing to it.
We'll
was
see.
a mistake.
We'll see in 3 years. You can buy me the game.
Well, if it's in 3
on
years,
PC.
it still didn't exist yet. So it's not a mistake. It is just
Well,
a mistake.
I said that I may agree with you that they may not have even started on it yet. My point is that it is planned for PC now. And that maybe they didn't want to announce it now, but...
No, it's not. The people who would have made this mistake would have no way of knowing that. Like, there's no... It's just a mistake. It's just a production mistake. Like they pulled the wrong template, and they stuck it on the bottom wrong. Because the other reason I knew it was wrong is because everything else that has the little, like, timed exclusive everything text at the bottom has a little asterisk next to its title, or the next to the thing on that slate. And Demon's Souls didn't have the asterisk.
Interesting.
So I knew they grabbed the wrong text at the bottom. I didn't know if the PC one way or the other, but they denied everything, and that's good enough for me.
Yep. I mean, we'll guarantee you guys it's going to be exclusive for the next 2 years. I honestly don't know why you would care that much, but after what happened with Miles Morales and Sackboy and Horizon, you guys could be angry about anything. So
at this point, it's the interesting thing about it. Like, this is basically the only exclusive on either console.
I know. That really is exclusive.
You can only play on a PS5.
You can't take it anywhere else and put it in any other machine or...
But my conspiracy theory on that is, like, in terms of early adopters, what other game is more appealing to them than this?
Not many.
Like, it's exactly the audience that cares about this game. Because let's face it, this thing's going to sell 3 to 4 million copies. It's not going to be a Miles Morales hit.
Yeah, it's not going to sell 10 to 15. It's going to sell, but that's all you need for launch.
These are exactly the people you need to make drool to get them to buy a system like early on. So I think it's a very smart move because I think. Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know why it's only a PS5. Maybe there's some stuff there because it looked like from the demo they gave, like there's no load time in that damn thing.
Yeah,
like it's just
it looks great too.
Go. Yep. Like it's really impressive. Like if you're familiar with the original game, like
especially if you compare it to the original, because that game was rough. It was rickety. They went from there to Fortnite, which I totally get. You have to let everybody know the world's most popular game is going to be on PS5. I get it. It didn't look any different at all. I mean, I'm sure it does. If you did like a side-by-side split screen, you'd be like, oh, sure, the PS5 version looks better. But looking at the trailer, that game is what it is. I don't think hardware is going to help with that game at all. But it's there, and that's important. And then PlayStation Plus Collection. I'm still not 1,000% sure I know exactly what is going on with this thing, but the short of it is that if you are a PlayStation Plus member, when you get your PlayStation 5, there's going to be a metric ton of free games for you to play. And not just any games, like huge, gigantic first-party exclusive games and some really big third-party games, which I was really surprised at, Matt. Do you think this was PlayStation's attempt at sort of blunting the perception that it is not as on board with backwards compatibility as Xbox is?
Somewhat. I think it's also sort of their stab at a Game Pass thing.
Yeah. Although they did say afterwards that no, that's not what we're doing.
Of course they said that, but like, what else is it?
Because Jim Ryan said afterwards that like Game Pass isn't sustainable and we'd never do that. So
yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Some of these games are a little old.
Yeah.
Like the Persona 5, cool. It's not the Royal Edition.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 10, very interesting.
Odd.
A whole game behind what's actually out. So there's a little bit, clearly they're not exactly doing Game Pass because they're not money-hatting the current versions of things.
Right.
But it is sort of a nice little instant library bonus if you're not, if all you want is Dark Souls or Demon Souls, I guess, you at least could go back and play like Bloodborne again. Yeah. Like with some PS4 advantages or PS5 advantages, Yeah. I assume that these will all be, these will all have some upgrades for the new system. So will it work? I'm on PS Plus no matter what. So I don't think it's going to convince anyone to buy the system, but it's nice to have.
I don't even think it's going to change perception that Xbox is a leader with backwards compatibility either.
No,
they're basically just throwing people a bone, I guess.
And they've already had to they've already had to say the thing where it's like, there's no PS1 through 3 backwards compatibility on this thing.
Yep. They already bit the bullet and did that. So this is maybe just a little make good to make people feel a little bit better about their PS5 purchase. I don't think it's a needle mover or a game changer, though.
No, it's nice that you're bringing forward sort of some of the best of the last gen onto the new system.
Yep.
Like, it's literally just a bell and a whistle.
That's all it is. Yep. And then came the big news that we had all been waiting for. We got the release date and the price for PlayStation 5, both versions. It launches November 12th in the US, Japan, and kind of that whole Asian area around Japan. And then it releases everywhere else on November 14th, including Europe. So you got about a 2-day gap in between the US and Europe for release. The digital-only version with no disc drive is $400, and the disc version is $500. Matt, how do you feel about that price gap? I know it's pretty much what both of us predicted. Now, in hindsight, are you okay with it?
I mean, yeah, I'm still kind of surprised a little bit because, like, that is not $100 worth of difference in terms of manufacturing cost.
I mean, Xbox got it right, to be honest with you. The 3 and 5 split makes more sense to me. And it has played out that way, too, because nobody is buying the all-digital version of the PlayStation 5. Again, cheap-ass gamer said 1% of their sales were the digital-only version of Playstation 5.
Well,
So
I think you're not. You might do better later on, but I think you're
definitely you will.
With the fact that, like, the launch day audience is largely hardcore people, and hardcore people, from my experience, myself not included, but the hardcore people, from my experience, tend to favor digital, physical media, inexplicably, in my opinion, because none of these discs are going to be worth anything without some kind of digital enhancement eventually for patches and shit.
Yeah.
But like, it's just sort of like, they don't want to give that up yet, and so it makes sense that it makes sense that the version with the disc drive would be more popular. I'm a little surprised that it's still doing such smaller numbers, even with $100 off.
Yeah.
Like I thought $100 off, which is way more. I thought they were gonna be the same price, and just the digital one would.
They give you games or whatever. Yeah.
Because I don't feel like not including a Blu-ray drive is enough of a manufacturing cost difference to drop the price that far. But apparently Sony thinks that the value is perceptually $100 less for that, which is interesting.
It is.
So, I mean, I got the disc one.
Yeah, me too.
Not because I care about disc-based games necessarily, but because Sony's Blu-ray playback is pretty much second to none.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, if you're a cinephile, that's a ticket.
That's what I'm counting on there in terms of that.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm a little. I also think the one without the disc drive looks better.
Agreed. It looks like it was designed that way. It looks like the disc drive was added afterwards to the design. Yeah, it's like this weird hump on it. Yeah, I agree. The all digital version looks better.
Like a growth on it.
Yeah, it looks like a tumor that's growing up out of it. So I agree. Like, I think the disc-free version, if they want it to be competitive with the Xbox Series X, probably is going to need to drop in price. If they don't care and it's just there as an option, then they're fine. How about the release date, the staggered release date for Europe? Any comments?
It's fine. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's probably.
I feel bad for our European brothers and sisters, but
I'm surprised it's 2 days after Xbox. I thought they'd launch further away.
Yeah, what a week! What a week that's gonna be. My ass is gonna be driving back and forth from Best Buy for like 4 days straight to go pick all this stuff up. And then the capper, the one more thing, was God of War Ragnarok. Again, has been rumored for years at this point that the next God of War was going to be set in Norse mythology or the Viking Age, depending on how you look at it. They didn't show anything other than the logo, and there was some voiceover. Kratos. That's how we knew at first that it was a God of War game. It's coming in 2021. Do you really think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, Sony's usually pretty on target with when these things happen. Might be end of the year.
I mean, it's been a couple years since God of War released, so that'll give them 3 years to create the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, that's about right. And apparently it is PS5 only.
Yep.
Like, there's no.
I think everything after this will be PS5 only.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds interesting. I hope they deliver somewhat on the promise, the hints in the first game of other pantheons, because 2 games in a row that are all Norse stuff would be a little overkill to me.
Yeah.
I hope they branch out a bit, because Ragnarok can mean the Norse Ragnarok, or it can just mean like end of the world, and
that's true. Yeah,
dragon, like other mythologies, and like because they tease like Egyptian stuff and Chinese stuff.
Yeah. There's like the symbols in the teaser.
Like there's a the like the
it could be more.
The paintings you find and stuff, like there's a lot more there. Like it hints at the existence of way more stuff outside of that, because we already know that because we went for the Greek gods and the Norse gods.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that they, I'm sure they will. Cory Barlog is a very, very genius creative director and game director, and I'm sure that they're going to expand this out into something amazing. So
okay, so here we are at the end of the summer. These consoles, all the chips are on the table. We know everything about both of them, literally everything at this point. What kind of a letter grade would you give Sony for its final PlayStation 5 preview?
Overall, I think I'm going to give it like a B+.
Yeah, me too. That's my grade. The middle.
Yeah,
is what dropped it down.
Might push to an A-. You show me some more Horizon.
Yeah, I was surprised it wasn't there at all. To be honest with you, I was disappointed that it wasn't shown at all. But overall, I think the presentation was paced well. For the most part, it was stacked well. I think you're smart probably to put the stuff of low interest in the middle, because people are going to stick around no matter what for that big finale at the end. I thought
no one's leaving early because they want. Yeah, you're going to get a price and a release date.
Yep.
You're not,
and they were smart not to put that first, because then you lose a lot of people from the presentation. So I thought that it was planned pretty smart. I think it was kind of slimy and maybe just an oversight not to include some of the really important information in the presentation. And that, to me, is why it gets the B+. Not because what I saw I wasn't impressed with or I wasn't happy with the news.
It's just weird that, like, I wonder, like, the lack of release date on the Demon Souls things makes me wonder, like, how down to the wire.
Yeah, everything may be. I mean, it's a console launch. That's kind of the way it goes, Just trying to get everything out as quickly as you can to make people excited. But overall, I'm excited for both consoles, and I've pre-ordered both. And I don't know that I'm more excited for one over the other, to be honest with you. I'm
more excited for PS5 because it's got Spider-Man and Demon Souls.
To play stuff, but like the first week I have a console, it's like I'm just like becoming friends with it. Like I'm learning its UI and all the little stuff that it does, and I'm just as excited for both consoles in that way, to kind of dig into them and start figuring out how they tick and what they do, and can they control my receiver, like all this little stuff that you don't get in the press releases that you learn when you start digging into them. So I'm equally excited for both, but when it comes down to which games am I more excited for at launch, hands down PlayStation 5. And with that, it's time to move on. This has just been an insane week. This show is off the rails. We're going to talk next about Crash Bandicoot 4. Some of you guys may have been playing this game because if you pre-ordered it, you got a special invite to a demo. Well, Activision sent me a code to the demo. I've been playing it over the last couple days now. You guys probably remember I am not the world's biggest Crash Bandicoot fan, and neither is Matt. Both of us have kind of put our stakes in the ground on that franchise, and that we feel like it needs to evolve. And after playing Insane Trilogy, which sold insanely well, we still weren't convinced that was kind of the direction it needed to go going forward. So I was very excited to try out Crash 4 because the trailers had kind of hinted that it was more of an open kind of 3D platformer-y game, instead of this game that's kind of on rails where you're always running away from the camera or always running at the camera or just side-scrolling. I thought it was more of a 3D platformer. I was wrong. It is not. It is Crash Bandicoot through and through. And for people like Matt and I, that's probably a little disappointing. But for literally like the 6 million people that bought Insane Trilogy, you're probably dancing in the streets right now. It is exactly like every other Crash game, for better or worse, again, depending on your perspective on Crash Bandicoot. There were 3 levels included in the demo, and I spent probably 3 hours playing the content in the demo. They hooked it up. Like a lot of these demos, it's like, here's like 1/3 of one level. No, this demo is 3 full levels from the final game. So it literally took me a couple hours to finish it because this game is so damn hard. Oh my God, Matt. Like, It's Crash. It's just all trial and error. It's like there are so many instant deaths in this game that there's no way that you could have the foresight to see it coming. It's just a trap that just kills you. And it happens all the time. You also have to keep in mind that, like prior Crash games, you get hit once, you die. There's no health meter. You get tons of lives, I'll say that. In fact, there are no lives in this game at all. Instead of having a counter that tells you how many lives you have left, there's a death counter there that tells you how many times you've died. It's an interesting kind of take on games that are challenging, is instead of saying you have X number of lives and when those are gone, you have to start back at this checkpoint or whatever, they're like, no, you can just keep going and you can keep starting from the checkpoint, but we're just going to humiliate you every time you die with this number that's going to stay there forever, because if you're a streamer or whatever, by the time you get to the end of the game, that number could just be astronomical. I can't even imagine. There's just tons of bottomless pits. Every enemy that touches you kills you. It doesn't have to attack you or hit you with an attack. If you touch it, you die. If you touch a nitro box, you die. If you touch an exploding box, you die. Again, it's Crash Bandicoot. It's the way it has been since the PlayStation 1 game, and they have not changed it for Crash 4 at all. So there are 3 levels, as I said. 2 of them you play as Crash. One of them, you're running away from the camera, and it's almost like an endless runner. And then the other one, you're running towards the camera as a dinosaur chases you. The 3rd level, you play as Cortex, and it is a side-scrolling platformery thing, but he has a ray gun that he can use to shoot things with that will turn them into platforms. But not only does it turn them into platforms, there's actually like 2 different forms of platforms. One is like a solid platform, and the other one is made out of like jelly, and if you jump on those, then you can jump higher off of those. And you just cycle through it. So you shoot something, it turns into the hard platform. You shoot it again, it turns into the gummy platform. Shoot it again, it turns solid, blah, blah, blah. And the game uses this mechanic for the puzzles throughout the whole level with Cortex. Now, there are special abilities in this game, a bunch of new ones. I think there's like 6 in total. But the one that we really got to try out in this was Crash's ability to slow time. And it's pretty generous because they ask you to use it a lot, and they put you in a level where you have to use it to get through. And so there's sections where like platforms are falling, and you have to stop time just at the right moment so that you have a step ladder to get up to the next platform. It's kind of like that mechanic throughout the whole level. And I'm guessing that's probably the first level where you get it, and it's like the tutorial that teaches you how to use it, because it doesn't go that hardcore into it. But even in that level, like there's a section where you have like a lake and like ice platforms above the lake, but then there are like vertical walls that the platforms slide underneath, and there's no gap between the wall and the bottom of the top of the platform. So you have to do like this thing where you jump and then you slide and then you jump out of your slide. So you jump, you slide underneath the wall and then jump out of your slide to the next platform. It's insane. Like, just figuring out that that's what they wanted you to do took me like 10 minutes. And then executing it took me like another 15 minutes. So the checkpoints are generous in this game, which thank God, because if they weren't, like, I can't imagine anybody sticking with this game. It is that brutal. So if you were hoping that Crash 4 was going to be this kinder, gentler take on Crash Bandicoot that was going to be, you know, something you could play and kick your feet up and kind of relax and enjoy yourself. Oh, no, no, no. This is one of those games where you're sitting on the edge of your seat every time. You'll die at the same point several times over till you figure out what you need to do. It is not for... I would say it's definitely not for anyone who started playing games after, like, 2010 and is not a fan of the Souls franchise. Because this is like the platforming equivalent of Souls, I would say. It's just this thing that punishes you over and over until you kind of figure out what it wants you to do or what it is asking you to do. Now, one thing I would say is when I first started playing this, I was very cautious. And I would take it like section by section and then look and kind of figure everything out and then go for it. What I found, though, after time was it's best to just go for it. Because the other thing that I found with this game is the jumping mechanics are kind of wonky. So it feels like there's only one jump. Like trying to use the analog stick to feather a jump, to not jump quite as far, is really hard. If I just stood at a platform and saw the next platform and just tried to jump and gauge that distance perfectly, to me it was almost impossible. I could not do it. Depth perception's tough in this game. One, there is now a little shadow underneath Crash, though, and you can see that they have realized that, you know what, the depth perception in this game is like impossible to judge. So now there is like a little circle that will show you where Crash is going to land when he jumps. It's a huge help. But it's still very hard to just use the analog stick to jump the right distance. So what I found myself doing is just trying to rip through the levels. And just assuming that I'm going to jump the same distance every time and account for that, and maybe just jump a little earlier than I would have to make sure that I land at that perfect distance. Trying to use the stick to get your jump distance right, to me, was impossible. So it's Crash. I really had hoped that they would kind of overhaul it a little bit. And the presentation is pretty good. It's not as good as it looked in the trailers, I'll say that. And I don't know, I did play this on Xbox One. I didn't play it on PS4 or PC, and I'm guessing the footage is probably coming from the PC version. That's some crazy powerful rig. On Xbox One, it did not look as good as it does in the trailers. It has its moments, but a lot of the geometry is pretty simple, and there's not a lot of effects and stuff going on. But the characters look great. The character models look great. The animation is really good, except for some of the old Crash animations. Like his animation, Matt, for his double jump is so dumb. It's like this weird thing where he does like a split and his legs go out like completely like parallel to the ground. It looks goofy. It doesn't feel right. I don't know. Playing this and having just played all the Mario 3D platformers earlier in the week, it just showed me why this franchise was always second fiddle to Mario. It still is. But if you're a Crash fan, you're going to get exactly what you want. A really challenging, punishing 2D platformer for the most part, with some cool power-ups, some impressive worlds that you'll go through, and some pretty clever puzzles, I'll say as well. But if you're hoping for it to change and you haven't liked Crash in the past, you can pretty much scratch this one off your list right now. And I know with Q4 looming, there are plenty of other options that you probably have your eye on. Any questions about Crash, Matt?
Nope.
Do you have any interest in playing it after what I just said about it?
No, but that's not any different than before what you said about it.
Yeah,
I was never going to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, neither one of us are big Crash fans, but I was hoping that this would be the one that at least extended an olive branch to people like us a little bit, but it doesn't.
No. After the sales of the Insane trilogy, like it makes plenty of sense to just do the same thing again.
We'll see, though. It may backfire because I know a lot of people that bought Insane Trilogy never even made it through one of the 3 games because they got halfway through the first one and were like, this is impossible. Like, I can't finish it. So we'll see if it pays off, but I would agree with you. Right now, that probably was the right call to make. So anyway, that's Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. It is coming to pretty much every platform. And it launches soon. I think it's like 2 weeks away or something like that. That's why the demo is out there for people who pre-ordered it. And with that, it's time to move on to a game that Matt has been playing. And that game is a game that technically came out a while ago, but it just left early access. And that game
about a year ago.
Yeah, and that game is Super Giants Hades. Matt, why are we talking about Hades now?
Well, because it finally hit 1.0, basically.
And what were the prior versions? What was it missing?
The end.
Oh, the end of the game. Okay.
And a bunch of post-game content. And just sort of enjoy. Like this game has come a very long way over the course of its early access. Like a lot of early access games, just sort of tweak things and add little things. Like Hades has changed its face a couple of times. Like they add because it's so Hades is it's by the guys who did Transistor and Bastion, Pyre, those games.
One of my old coworkers, Greg Kasavin from GameSpot. Yep.
And so what it is, it's a roguelike. It's a dungeon crawl roguelike. You play the son of Hades, and he is a brooding prince boy, and he wants to escape basically the underworld. and get to Olympus and find his mother. And so the way that works is he is kind of free to try to fight his way out of the underworld. And the way that works is there's a room. It's a very series of rooms, and because it's a roguelike, they're different every time you die. So you go into each room and you fight a bunch of enemies usually, and then once that happens, you get the item for the room. Every room has a thing there's an item that they drop once you beat them all. And then you go into the next room, and sometimes you can choose between which room is your next room. And the door to the rooms has a little globe with an icon in it, and that icon indicates what item will drop when you complete the encounter in that room.
Gotcha.
So you can kind of plan your way. So, like, is it going to be, like darkness, which you use to upgrade the character permanently? Is it going to be like every kind of Greek god you can think of shows up, like when the main pantheon shows up, and you'll get a little orb, and they pop up and say, "Hey, nephew, what's up?" And like, here's a thing. So they give you upgrades for your weapons and stuff, and those upgrades go away if you die. So, and as you go through the labyrinth, obviously you're fighting more and more enemies. There's limited health regeneration, and then you run into bosses, and each time you fight a boss, that's the end of the level of the underworld you're in, and then once you pass that, you go to the new area. If you die, you get sent back to Hades' house, which is also your house because you're his son, and you can talk to everybody there.
Papa Satan.
And upgrade everything and that kind of stuff. So, like all of Supergiant stuff, there's a definite kind of tongue-in-cheek tone to it. The voice acting is exceptionally good.
Yeah,
all their games are always
is that. Why is that?
I think they just prioritize it.
I guess.
They're very good about it.
Yeah.
Some of the vocal performances in this are some of the best of the year.
Wow.
Even if it's just a couple characters that talk a little bit, like it's just there's character and care put into how all these characters talk, and it's really well done. Writing's solid. There's a lot of like meta jokes and things, a lot of Greek mythology jokes. If you're familiar with all these different gods and goddesses and stories and heroes and stuff, like there's a lot of in jokes in there for you to kind of be like, oh, I know that, like that. And there's also like there's a narrator. There's almost always a narrator in their games. But in this case,
is it like a disembodied voice like their other games?
Yeah, except your character, the prince can hear it.
Oh.
And periodically he tells him to shut up. And there's actually a point in the game where the narrator narrates an important plot point, and your character finds out because he hears the narrator say it. And the narrator's like, and he found out completely by accident. It was a very weird thing no one could ever explain.
Interesting.
So there's some funny stuff in there like that. It's a roguelike. It's that game. The game is out to kill you. And you slowly, as you come back, you gather a bunch of stuff you lose every time you die. So you lose all your weapon upgrades. Mm-hmm. You lose all your money. And the money you used in the dungeon to buy like items at like Charon's store or like little fountains that sell stuff. So there's no reason to hoard it for later. The only stuff you bring back with you are keys and nectar, which you can give to other characters and upgrade your relationship with them, and they'll give you gifts and like unlock new dialogue things. Mm-hmm. And the darkness, which darkness is basically XP, and you use that to upgrade. It's fun. It's interesting how it all works together. So it's like you use the darkness to upgrade your abilities. You start with 4 abilities. It's like do more damage when you're backstabbing someone. Gain 1 health every time you leave a room. Which you can upgrade to 3 health. And the funny thing is, like, 3 health can save your life if you start.
Well, the hit points in their games have always been that way. Yeah, like their characters are always very low, like hit point. It's like you're worried about 20 instead of 20,000.
Yeah. Well, you start with 50 life, and you can get upgrades in the labyrinth that up you like 25 total hit points. By the first run I went through, I think I was up to like 100 by the time I got to the boss. Mm-hmm. But you lose those upgrades when you die, so you always start over with 50, unless like later on, like you can do more permanent upgrade things. But like early on, like that's the rule. so presentationally it's very in line with their other games, which is top notch.
Yep.
Frankly, I'm not a huge fan of Transistor and Bastion, but I did love Pyre a lot, and this is really good too. The way arcade games lived or died was basically, was it fun to play that same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
And Hades, it is.
I mean, that's what roguelites are all about,
Right. And a lot of them are not fun.
Yeah, you're right. I don't like most of them, I'll be honest.
This, however, this is done up like a hack and slash kind of action game, rather unforgiving one. There's a little bit of Hyper Light Drifter in the combat, in terms of, it's very dash based.
Okay.
The thing about it is, like, you get upgrades constantly. The upgrades they give you can be substantial. So you're talking about, like, first room I went into, you always get a little orb, and it's got a symbol of the god on it, which you can usually tell who it is by what the symbol is, even if you haven't opened it yet. It's like, okay, there's a bow and arrow, it's probably Artemis. Trident's got to be Poseidon. And you get your little dialogue thing, and they'll say, here we go, and here's your thing. So you pick between 3 abilities, and usually they'll upgrade either your weapon. You have 2 attacks for your weapon. You have normal and special. It'll upgrade one of those to, or it'll upgrade your cast, which is B, which is like a distance magic thing, but it's used with this red crystal. So you have to get the crystal back when you use it. So that's your limit on your magic, basically.
Okay, got you.
And then there's dash. And then there's also, you can summon a god to help you with power. That comes up later. So it's sort of a super move meter thing. But like you play through it, and it's different every time. You get a bunch of different choices about who gives you the upgrades and what happens. And it's just the right balance of like permanent upgrade juice, darkness and stuff, and keys and stuff. Because like you get those first 4 upgrades, and then you can use keys to unlock new weapons, or you can use keys to unlock new skills, or you can use keys to unlock other things. Then you get this other currency, gemstone currency, that you can use to upgrade the actual Hades house and give you more things you can do there, and like add decorations, and that unlocks new things.
How much are they selling Hades for, Matt?
Oh, that's a good question, because I've had it for a year.
Yeah, because you got it when it came out in early access, right?
Yeah, I want to say it's probably 30.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, the thing about rogue-style games is that they intrinsically have a little more value because they're designed to be played over and over and over again. And no 2 runs are ever really the same. So
it's 25 and currently 20% off on Steam.
So you can get it for $20, basically.
It's also on Switch. It launched on Switch day.
Yeah, that was the big thing, right? It also launched on Switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just PC and Switch right now, though.
PC and Switch for now.
Yeah. And would you be happy with that if it was $25?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a really good $25. I will admit I keep forgetting the name of the main character because he's
that's not a good sign.
Well, he's not the only character who's not a real, as far as I know, a real Greek mythology figure.
Yeah.
Or if he is, he's real obscure. His name is like Zebius or something like Zebius.
Knowing Greg Kasavin, I would say he's probably real. But like you said, very obscure. He's probably some little side note in some book somewhere.
Might be. Like, I don't remember. I'm pretty familiar with Greek mythology, and I don't remember his name anywhere. But Hades, that's the only one I keep forgetting. But he's also very funny. Like he's a very likable character.
Okay, so Hades 25-ish, PC, Switch, buy it. Accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
I have no problem recommending this game.
Okay.
It's a super solid thing.
And the good thing too,
Zagreus. That's it. Zagreus.
Oh, okay. And the good thing too is that you're supporting really good people. Greg Kasavin is a great guy, and you should feel good about giving him and his studio your cash.
And you're right. He is an actual real mythological figure.
I knew it. Greg, that's how Greg rolls, man.
But don't look that up on Wikipedia, because I think that's a spoiler.
Okay, there you go.
Interesting.
All right, so up next, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the PlayStation 5 showcase that they put out an alpha for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War that ran over this past weekend exclusively for PlayStation 4 owners. I am a PlayStation 4 owner, and so I downloaded that sucker and I played it a lot. And I am here to deliver my report. Now, I'll say this. It is the roughest Call of Duty I have ever played in my life. It is a true alpha, meaning this game in its current state probably should not be being played by consumers. It is that rough. I know that's hard to believe, because I know a lot of you have played the prior betas for Call of Duty. Maybe you played all of them. And to you, you're like, oh, these things are basically the multiplayer suite finished. And I thought that as well. And I will tell you that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is nowhere near that place in development. It is really rough. And when I say rough, Matt, I'm talking about like standing on a map and watching the ground textures just come and go below your feet, or just warping in and out of existence. There are these little cutscenes that happen before each match, kind of like Modern Warfare, where it's like you and your squad in a truck or in a helicopter or a plane going to the drop zone. And even those cutscenes are all like broken and janky. Like they just end. There's no fanfare like before matches or after matches. There's no leveling actually in this alpha at all. Everything was unlocked right from the beginning. So you could literally just build whatever you wanted, which was great because it did show you kind of the flexibility of the new build system. But it's also weird to play Call of Duty and not have that sequence of have a good game, unlock a bunch of stuff, go in real quick, try to get it equipped before the next match starts. There's none of that because it was just all there right from the get-go. But I have never seen a Call of Duty look this rough as it was presented to the public. I think it was a bad idea to release this alpha, and I wonder why they did it. Like, I really think, Matt, that the deal that they have with Sony in some way forced them to do this because it's busted. Like, there are so many parts of it that were busted. I could not believe that they released this for the public to play. Like, honestly, having been in the press for the last 20 plus years and having gone to all the Call of Duty pre-release press events, they never showed a game this early to the press even. Knowing that the press knew that this is an alpha, a lot of this stuff's going to get fixed or changed, they would not show us a game that was this early. I'm shocked that I played this game on public servers over the weekend. Even just in general, the game just does not look good. And again, I played this on a PS4 Pro with super sampling enabled. It is very fuzzy and blurry. The animation looks weird. I don't know what's going on here. I really don't. I have played every Treyarch Call of Duty it's ever created, and I do know that now they have different studios working on different parts of Call of Duty, but man, it's a step back, not just in visuals, also in functionality. This game has been completely stripped down. So I mentioned on GameFace before that there's no wall running or any of that crap. Well, my God, that seems like a dream. This is the most stripped down Call of Duty I've played since maybe the first Black Ops, to be honest with you. And it may be on purpose. They may be wanting to reboot it and take it back, but it goes too far back, I think. A lot of the technology, because it's set during the Cold War, is older, so you don't get a lot of the high-tech gadgetry, but you do get some of the more fun ones from older games that have gone away because the setting didn't make sense for them anymore. So as far as like the gear and the guns and the tech, I'm okay with it because I'm getting some stuff back that I liked, and I'm losing some stuff that I liked. But if you just keep playing the same game every year, they wouldn't release a new game in the first place. So I understand that they need to change it every year, and I'm okay with that as far as the loadout options are concerned. I still have an AK-47, and I can still literally attach like 10 different things to that AK-47. Like, once you start getting into the wild cards, you can literally attach 10 things to a gun. It got to the point where I had like a red dot sight and a laser sight because I ran out of stuff. I didn't even need to put any more on my gun, and I just wanted to see what I could do. So there is a lot more flexibility in how you handle your loadouts. The other thing that they talked about before I played it was score streaks, how they went back to score streaks. It's not kill streaks anymore. And now you get points for everything you do, and that builds toward your streaks, and they thought that it was going to help you get more streaks. I can tell you it absolutely works. I got score streaks this weekend that I don't know if I've ever got in a Call of Duty game before because I could just never string together like 15 straight kills. a lot of people have been complaining about the alpha because it uses a skill-based matchmaking system. I love it. My first few games, I got housed. I got destroyed. As they started figuring out what my ELO was, though, I could watch the curve. I could watch me just get my butt kicked, and it just slowly sloping up until I started playing with people who are about my skill level. And then I have a game where I didn't do as good, then I dominate. Then I do a little worse, then I dominate. I thought it was perfect. That, to me, that part of it is great. And my KD in this is probably a 1.6, which is just outrageous for me. I do not have a KD that high. So
I did like that I saw somebody complaining about the skill-based matchmaking, and he's listing all the Call of Duties that didn't have it. He's like, this said Black Ops 2 didn't have it, and some guys all of these Call of Duties had skill-based matchmatchmaking.
Yeah, and you just didn't know.
The guy says false, and the guy says, I wrote the skill-based matchmaking for Black Ops 2.
Yeah,
it
works well.
It's always amazing to me how people that complain about things in games generally don't know what they're talking about.
They don't know what they're talking about. But I like it. I felt like I was playing with people around my skill level all weekend long. After I got past those first few matches where I got destroyed, it was great. I never got discouraged. I never got bored because I was just dominating everybody. I love that part of the game. And I saw a lot of people complaining about it. And what it is you got these guys who are just really freaking good, and they're probably streamers too, and a lot of their reputation depends on their KD. So if they're streaming and their KD is 20 kills and 20 deaths, that's not going to work for them. And I think what you're seeing is these people who are used to winning every match 32-5 or whatever. I don't even know why you would want to do that. It makes the game so boring. But anyway, these people who are used to having these crazy KDs are all pissed off now because they're playing as people just as good as them, and they're not destroying a bunch of noobs every match. So I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. The matchmaking works great. It was one thing that I actually noticed before I even read anything about it. I was like, wow, these matches are all close. All the people I'm playing against are about on my skill level. I loved it. And for me, that goes a long frickin' way. The textures on the ground and all that other stuff, that's frivolity. The core of it is, will it keep you hooked? Will it keep you playing against people who will keep you hooked? And so far, the game has absolutely done that. The maps are a mixed bag. The one I talked about, I think it was our last episode, was there's a bunch of big ships and then an ocean in the middle. That map turned out to be great. There are zip lines in between the ships, so you don't have to go all the way down to the water and then get in a boat and then travel slowly across the water. That's a huge mistake anyway, because the snipers are just going to kill you before you get anywhere near the boat. Instead, there are zip lines that you can just jump on and zip, you're right off to the next boat. It's awesome. The snipers still have their chance to try to snipe you while you're zipping. Once you land, you can go inside for close quarters combat. Great map. Loved it. The other maps, not so much. The smaller TDM maps, there are way too many dead ends where you're running along the edge of the map and you see a thing that goes to the right, you go to cut into it, and it's just a dead end. There's stuff like that all over it. However, I do like that most of the maps are just 3-lane maps. There's a reason why they're so popular, because they work. I did not find myself getting shot in the back all the time in this game. The spawns were great. I was not getting shot as soon as I was respawning. I liked the map layout. I did not like some of the more minutia of the design, as far as some of the dead ends and things like that. But unlike Modern Warfare, there also aren't these long, 200-yard alleyways with no outlets that you're forced to run down and snipers just rain down on you. I liked the maps for the most part in this. Now, the other big thing that they've been focusing on is how the modes are changing, and how they're supposed to be changing the core of the mall. I really didn't see that. If there's one thing I was more disappointed about than the technical performance of the game, it's that the modes still just don't change anything. I did not get to play the VIP mode, which I was excited to play, which is the one where one team protects the VIP as he tries to get off the map and the other team tries to stop him. I did not get to play that, full disclosure. But I played pretty much everything else, and it all plays just like Call of Duty always does. Don't fall for the press releases or the buzzwords that they're throwing around. For the most part, it plays like Call of Duty, which I think for most people, that's probably what they want anyway. One other map that I liked was called Satellite. and it has sand dunes, which means that it has curves. Matt, you don't realize how everything in a Call of Duty game is a right angle until you get a map that has sand dunes with curves. Like, it completely changes the strategy of playing Call of Duty, because now you can strafe and you can follow kind of that curve line and just get to that point where that curve dips down a little bit and you see that head pop up and boosh. Surprisingly, it added a lot to it. I wish there were more maps like this. There need to be more maps like that in Call of Duty in general. The other thing, too, is it takes more bullets to kill. Modern Warfare, very quick deaths. In this game, you don't have to unload a whole clip in them, but you can't just spray them with like one burst of fire and they die. And I like that. But a lot of the people who like playing with SMGs, which are basically weapons that are good close up, the farther away you get, the less effective they get, they've been having big time problems, because if they're even like 10 or 15 feet away, the spread is so big that you're not killing people the way that you're used to. So there's been a transition period for some people who are used to playing a particular way. But overall, I guess I would say it's a mixed bag. Technically, it's in trouble. I'll just be honest with you. The game comes out in like no time, and it was a mess, visually a mess. I've never seen a Call of Duty look like this, multiplayer. So that's a problem, and they can't delay it. So I don't know what's going to happen there. My guess is nobody is going to be sleeping for like the next like 4 weeks over there trying to get this stuff fixed. But I like the way the score streaks work. I like the maps. I like the more vehicles incorporated into multiplayer. I liked the big open map on the ocean where you were going from one tanker to the next using vehicles to get back and forth. There's a lot I liked about it. I like the gunplay. The guns feel good. I didn't see a lot of problems with lag where I would see one thing on my screen and then in the replay I'd see another. So stuff like that is working out okay, but man, I don't know. I have not went and looked at anyone else's impressions of this online, but I am guessing that there are some people out there who massacred this alpha. I mean, massacred it. If you were in the exact opposite of their wheelhouse, meaning if you're a really good player and you really care about graphics and things like that, like this could have like rocked your world. But me, I focus more on the core of the play, and I do feel like that is pretty good. I'm nervous about the campaign, though. I'll be perfectly honest with you. After having played the multiplayer to see the state that it's in, I'm nervous that it's going to be riddled with bugs. I'm just, as someone who has covered Call of Duty for 20-some years, I've never seen the game this close to release in this state. And I think that's probably the best way to end it. Unless you have any questions, Matt.
Nope.
All right. Next up. Now, I've been playing games like mad, by the way. I have played so many video games since I last saw you guys. It's really, with my spare time, it's all I've been doing. And I played another one. I played WWE 2K Battlegrounds. And I've said on the show before, million times, I have not been a fan of wrestling games since the N64 era. That was the last time I really enjoyed a wrestling video game. And I think we would all agree that while those N64 games did have more realism than any wrestling game that ever came before it, they were still arcadey. And so I was excited to learn that they were making a new WWE game that was more arcade-facing instead of kind of the more sim stuff that we've been getting from THQ through the years and from developers like Ukes. And that part of it is good. It is very accessible. It's very easy to jump in and play. There's a punch button and there's a kick button, and the combo is 3 punches in a row or 3 kicks in a row. And then other than that, you basically have your finishers and your signature move and then like throws. And that's pretty much it. There's either 5 or 6 different classes of wrestlers. And of course you have like the heavies that are really slow but do a lot of damage. You have the guys who are small but they can fly all over the ring and they're way quicker. But the thing about it is each of those 6 classes of wrestlers have moves that are just copied and pasted across every wrestler in that class, minus their signature move or their finisher. So what you end up with is basically 5 different wrestlers in the game total, with each one having like their own 1 or 2 different moves that they can do. So everything kind of starts to feel the same after a while, and that's exacerbated by the lack of depth in the gameplay. So there's really no grapple system, It's like if somebody goes to try to throw you, and a button prompt pops up, and you have a window to hit the button prompt and reverse it. The problem is, Matt, I'm not exaggerating, the reversal window is like 3 seconds long. It's so long that I've hit the button multiple times and failed it because I hit it and hit it again and turned it off before the prompt disappeared. It's absurd. So when you're playing against a computer, it's not that big a deal because they don't just like automatically reverse everything you do. But when you go and you play online, it is absurd. It is just counter, counter, counter. Oh my gosh, I got a scoop slam. Counter, 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 counter. Oh my gosh, I got a punch in. Like, that is how the matches play out. And there's no like the other thing I liked about the N64 wrestling games, even though they were arcadey, was that like you could focus on like a particular body part. You could try to take out their knee and eventually they wouldn't be able to walk and you could win the match that way. Like, this game doesn't even work that way. Like, gradually beating up an opponent basically does nothing. It will fill up your heat meter, which is what you need to fill up before you can do your special. But it doesn't like gradually wear down the other guy to where you can pin them. Like, you basically are forced to use your finishers and your signature moves to just dole out so much damage that you basically kill them and you pin them. So there isn't like this attrition thing where you can be strategic and be like, oh, I've been working on like his right leg, and if I could keep working on that, maybe I could weaken him to the point where I can put him in a figure four or whatever. There's none of that. It's just, how can I get my special? How can I pull off my special before he pulls his off? Or how can I counter before he can? It just becomes like you're a cat chasing its own tail. This whole game feels that way. Now, there are a ton of wrestlers in the game. There's like 70 in the final game. However, when you first start playing, there's only like 20. And you may be saying to yourself, that's okay. That gives me a bunch of stuff to unlock. And it does. However, unlocking the wrestlers in this game takes forever. Forever. And so it's much more convenient to just go to the store and pay $1 for that wrestler. So you got 20 when you start. My guess is you'll probably unlock 5 or 6 before you get sick of it and won't want to do it anymore. And then you got like almost 50 left. That how do you get those wrestlers? You're going to pay for them if you really want them. So this is a 2K game, and that is a problem across 2K's pretty much entire suite of games, is that they are very predatory when it comes to microtransactions. NBA 2K, one of the most notorious in the industry. Here we have a WWE 2K game, same deal. And not only that, like, you can create your character, but like all the cosmetics that they give you for free are trash. Like, all the exciting ones you have to pay for. Like, you'll never unlock them just playing the game. Well, you could, but you'd be playing the game for like 6 years before you unlock like a costume. So the prices for this stuff, it's all targeted towards getting you to pay for it instead of earning it in game. And the vast majority of that content is locked behind these walls. So the live commentary's busted. It says the wrong stuff all the time. Sometimes it's like 5 seconds behind the action. The graphics themselves, everything looks fine while you're wrestling, but like the intros look terrible. When you get up close with the character models, they're scary. They look roughly accurate. Like The Rock kind of does like the eyebrow cock, but it's just so goofy it doesn't look right. Like, the entrances are repeated for like all the wrestlers. Most of the wrestlers don't have their like signature entrances. I mean, I could just go on and on. But the one thing I would say is this game has tons and tons of modes and features. Like, everything. I already said, obviously, 70 wrestlers. But there's 2-on-2, 1-on-1, 3-on-3, Hell in a Cell, cage match, everything. Any match type that you can think of is in this. And not only can you play it like against a computer or locally, you can go online. There's some cool online stuff as well. There's like an endless like battle royale mode where you get in the ring and it's just the last guy standing stays in there, and the internet just keeps feeding new opponents into the ring as you eliminate the other ones. That was pretty cool. There are these tournaments where they kind of force you into specific match types. Like this week it was tag team or whatever. And so you need to find a partner and go in and do tag team. And all this stuff gives you points and money that you can use to unlock the stuff, but it's not enough to unlock the stuff. So I was pleasantly surprised by this game in some ways. It does play pretty well. It's not very deep, as I said, but the mechanics do feel good for the most part. There's some slight hit detection issues here and there. The presentation, some of it looks good, some of it looks really bad. But really, just how robust the game is has been the biggest surprise to me. How many modes there are, how many match types there are. You can create your own ring. You can create your own arenas. You can even set up like the lighting and stuff like in the arenas. So it goes above and beyond what I thought it would in some areas for the first game in a franchise, but then in other areas it falls woefully short. So in short, I would say that this is a very fun pick up and play game if you have people to play with. If you have people that come over, all the better. It can definitely distract you for a couple hours, but the more you start playing it, the less you're going to like it, the less your friends are going to like it, because you start to find the holes in the rock, paper, scissors stuff with the different classes, and you start to learn that actually being good at wrestling doesn't make you good at the game, and I think that's a huge disconnect that a lot of people have to fight through. So it is available for everything. I'm pleasantly surprised by parts of it, disappointed by other parts of it. It is not your typical first release in a franchise, I guess is the best way to sum it up. Usually the stuff that this gets right, first games get wrong, but it's been flip-flop in this case. And maybe part of that is because 2K came in and they have a big budget and they were able to kind of shine up some parts of the game more than you might expect. But I would say it's a step above an indie game, but not by much. For instance, the career mode is just a ladder of unending opponents, and I mean unending. Literally hundreds of matches that are just tied together with these still animation, like comic book stills that have 2 pages that tell you about whatever the guy is that you're supposed to fight next. And I made it maybe a 10th of the way through that ladder and quit. And unfortunately, that is also where you get a lot of the free unlocks. So you feel like you're kind of forced to play through it if you want to get your money's worth without paying more. So it's an auspicious start. I'll say this. I think they have something here. I think they could turn this into something that will sell better than their more sim-related wrestling games. And I'll just say this right now. It's way, way better than WWE 2K20, which was a disaster. So it's probably the best wrestling game on the market right now. And if you're a big fan of the WWE, I would say buy this before you buy the next simulation that hits the market. Any questions about that, Matt?
Not especially. I mean, you do seem more positive on it than like the majority of the reviewers. But like, it's an appealing idea. I don't know if they've gotten there. I've seen some of the fighting game community sort of playing around with it to see if it could be a competitive thing.
Oh no! No! They'll hate it. They will hate it.
The consensus seems to be that like it's just too broken.
Yeah, I mean, there's hit detection issues. Like I've had times where I tried to like do my super, and my guy will jump up on his shoulders and then just fall off. Like,
well, it's not that so much as the balance is non-existent.
There isn't any. I mean,
like one of the ways you can give yourself an advantage is to charge up your heat using your taunt, your character's taunt move, and Triple H's taunt is like a third as long as everyone else's.
No, so you're right. That's accurate. Yep, that is accurate.
Can charge up his heat meter like faster than anyone else in the game.
There's stuff like that all through it.
Yeah.
That's what I said. The longer you play it, the more you start finding that stuff that just doesn't add up, and it makes you not want to play it. I'll just be perfectly honest.
My favorite tagline for many of the reviews was Games Radar, I think it was. It said, a brand that's reached rock bottom.
It has. I mean, between the last WWE sim and this game, it's hit rock bottom. That's very accurate. So there you go. That's
so weird. It's so weird that they just cannot get their act together on that brand.
I would say this. I would say wrestling games are probably hard to make. They're difficult, but that doesn't mean that we should be sitting here 20-some years later and they're still trash.
I mean, I still think like the problem is the lack of iteration and a constant need to sort of attempt to reinvent things. Because like it's not like the casts of these things change that much.
No,
no.
They should have the mocap data for like all this stuff.
All you should be doing year to year is making them play a little better, and adding some modes or trying to beef up the story ideas or the ability to sort of create a narrative that flows along with your creative wrestler. Like that's all you need to do. You don't need to completely reinvent this wheel. And it's so weird that they just cannot figure that out.
It's very frustrating.
Like a lot of that stuff. I mean, I think even people. I think at this point people would pretty much welcome like just a remaster of WWF No Mercy from the N64 or something. You know, like
remake one of those games. Like people would go crazy for it. I agree. I don't know how they've gotten worse. Here we are 20 some years later and the games have gotten worse.
Yep.
It's boggles the mind.
It's one of the only areas where that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's like we always say, like a studio is just a name, you know? It's all about the people and the talent that make the games. And, you know.
And the time and the budget they're given.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. And to be fair, with these annual releases, you have no chance of making a good game. You just don't.
No. And it wouldn't surprise me if the budgets are not what we would imagine.
Yep. I believe that as well. So there you go.
Vince McMahon is not a spendthrift.
Oh, he is cheap AF is the best way to describe it. So there you go. That's WWE 2K Battlegrounds. It's available for pretty much everything, but it's a hard buy. I would probably pay $20 for this game. That's probably the most I would pay for it. And then if you spend $20 and you got this thing that just kind of sits around when your friends or your family comes over, I think you'll get good value out of it then. But again, the more you play it, the less you're going to like it. All right, it's time for our last topic, and you guys knew this was going to be the last topic of episode 229 because it is literally just earth-shattering news. And that is that Microsoft has bought ZeniMax, the parent company of Bethesda, and a bunch of other brands too. But for our purposes, the big news here is that Bethesda is now under the Xbox umbrella. Since the announcement has been made, there have been conflicting stories and reports about how things are going to work. In all honesty, it just sounds like this came out of nowhere. I mean, I'll be honest, Matt, it doesn't sound like Bethesda was really ready to talk about it, or Microsoft for that matter. I will say this, Michael Pachter predicted on Pachter Factor in October of 2018, that was almost 2 years ago, that Xbox would buy Bethesda. Go look it up. It's pretty crazy. People just started
look up him complaining that you misspelled his Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he got all mad because we misspelled his name in the tweet. But anyway, he predicted this 2 years ago, and here it is come to fruition. First of all, Matt, just your initial reaction when you found out about this.
Well, I found out because my phone was blowing up from people texting me about it.
Yeah.
It broke before I usually wake up in pandemic times.
It was early. It was an early leak.
It was an East Coast story.
Yeah.
And my main reaction was like, what? How much? Like I think that was my initial reaction was how much, and then it turned out $7.5 billion.
And here's the crazy thing: PAC back in 2018 predicted like $8 billion for the sale. It's insane.
That's almost twice as much as Disney paid for Star Wars.
I know. So, is it worth it, Matt?
Maybe.
I don't think it is.
Well, here's the thing. Like, they got a lot of IP.
They did. People don't realize there's a lot more under the ZeniMax umbrella.
They got Doom. Yeah. They got Wolfenstein. Yeah. They got Elder Scrolls. They got Fallout.
Yeah.
They got some serious.
That's huge
shit.
IP. Yeah.
Even if you don't end up keeping a lot of these studios, the fact that Doom is an Xbox exclusive, a PC exclusive.
Well, that's where it starts to get fuzzy.
Fallout, Skyrim, like. Remember how we complained that Skyrim's on everything?
I know.
Toasters? Like, I guess we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, coming to a toaster near you next week.
The big thing to me is that they have, and that occurred to me sort of after I sort of absorbed it a little bit, was that Microsoft has basically bought up all of Western RPG development.
All of them. Yeah.
They've got Obsidian. They've got In Exile. They've got Bethesda. I bet you the people that own Interplay are making some calls.
I mean, they got Arcane. Arcane makes RPGs. I mean,
like the top level stuff outside of sort of the Eurojank, thing and CD Projekt Red. That's all it is basically. I mean, otherwise especially we were talking about how Obsidian is making Avowed, which is like a Skyrim clone in the Pillars universe, to sort of beat Bethesda to the Elder Scrolls punch. Well, now it's like
so much for that.
If you want that kind of game, you're going to need to own an Xbox or a PC. Basically.
And that to me is what's is what's the smartest about Microsoft's acquisitions. If you are going to go all in on one genre as sort of your tent pole to bolster your business, open world action RPG is the exact genre that you should be doing it with. First person shooters second, probably. Action RPG first. This strategy, I'll be honest with you, Matt, I hadn't even recognized this strategy until you mentioned it. When you said to me, all the action RPGs are all Xbox exclusives now, I was like, hot damn, that is some smart stuff that Microsoft just did right there.
When even look at someone was tweeting at Obsidian about does this mean New Vegas 2 could be a thing now that ZeniMax is no longer, that parent company was the thing that Obsidian had the problem with because they're the ones that screwed them out of their royalties.
Right.
And the official Obsidian Twitter response was just an emoji of someone shrugging.
I don't know.
And it was just that's a distance from the previous. We are never working with those people again.
Well, I think that's the aftermath. Is that we don't know how things are going to play out because obviously the first question everyone asked was okay, well, you have all these studios now from Bethesda and all these games and IPs and franchises, but what are you going to do with them? Are you going to continue to release them multi-platform, or are these all going to be exclusives? And basically, the only thing that Microsoft said was that all these games will be on Game Pass, which is huge, and two, that every franchise or game is going to be considered on a game-by-game basis. So that means that some games absolutely are going to be multi-platform. Mm-hmm. And look, that isn't...
You got to wonder, what, especially because Microsoft doesn't care all that much about selling hardware versus having you in the ecosystem.
Right.
Considering how much Elder Scrolls sells, would it... You don't know that until, you know the internal numbers. Would it be more financially advantageous to just sell it on the other platforms?
I think it would.
I'd imagine you'd make more money in the long run from selling that game on other platforms than from keeping it to yourself, especially if you're not obsessed with selling console hardware to people, which they don't seem to be.
You're right. That is tough math, though.
I'm not. I don't know. I think we need some internal research from them
for sure.
But I guarantee that's something they're looking at.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and they should. If in a more traditional console age, it doesn't make sense at all. Because you want people to buy your console so that they buy games for your console, and you keep making those royalties on those software sales. But you said, the way Microsoft is handling its business now, that's not really how it operates. It just wants people to be in its system, giving it X amount of dollars a month. And I don't know how much weight something like that would give to that service, but it's hard to imagine that someone paying $10 to play that plus everything else for a month is somehow going to overwhelm a game selling another 7 million copies on PlayStation 5. The other thing too is that, so you're playing the next Elder Scrolls game on PlayStation 5. When it boots up, does it say Xbox Game Studios? There's all this crazy stuff to consider. And if that is the case, and that does happen, there's some value in that. In people playing their PlayStation 5 and seeing this game that they love that says Xbox Game Studios.
They could even do the Ubisoft thing where okay, you're gonna be able to play Elder Scrolls 6 on PlayStation 5, but Xbox Game Studios pops up along with the other logos. And if you wanna you create an Xbox account.
I mean, they could also do the thing where
log in and get some bonus thing, or sign, just like Warner Brothers does. You get a special Batman outfit. You log into your WBID. You can do that too. You get them in the ecosystem.
You're right, and you could even do stuff where you just don't put out the DLC for the PS5 version or whatever. I mean, you hold all the cards, so you can set it up however you want to make sure that your Xbox customers are getting what you feel like their value should be. And you're still trying to grow your business.
So dirty with that. You could be okay, no DLC on the PS5, but if you get an Xbox, your save and all this, you can still play this game without buying it all over again, and you can get the DLC over there.
Yep, because your save is in our cloud, and we can take that save from our cloud and zap it right into your console when you get your console.
You don't need to buy it again because we got you on Game Pass.
Yep.
And you could just download that, and all you need to do is buy the DLC.
Yep. I mean,
or you can do that on PC. Just transition over to our ecosystem on PC. Like you could get so nasty with that. It's because it's so tempting.
It is. It's so hard to say what the right move is, though. I mean, they'll know better than us because they have all that information, but.
And people, I'm sure there'll be complaints about, I don't know.
No matter what,
to play Starfield or whatever. But you know what? There is a outside possibility that you might get to play Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 on a PS5 or a Switch 2. And this is the only company buying Bethesda where that would happen.
That's absolutely right. If Nintendo bought it, Sony bought it, you would never see their stuff on other platforms, ever. No. And you know what? That, to me, is something that Microsoft has done over the last couple of years that I have to give them a commendation for, because it's not easy to do, and they sat and watched their two biggest competitors not do it, and they have stuck to their guns. So Microsoft, who would ever thought that Microsoft would end up being the most consumer-friendly of those three? That's pretty crazy when you think about it. But that's really what's happened. I mean, as far as this generation is concerned, Microsoft is undoubtedly the most consumer-friendly. But it needs to be, because it doesn't have the software to generate sales the way it would want to without being so consumer-friendly. So,
and it had to learn that lesson of humility at the beginning of this generation.
Yep, absolutely. So. It did. So, no matter what, this is huge news for Microsoft, just gigantic, regardless of whether stuff is like delayed on PS5 or day and date with PS5. The bottom line is this still helps the profile of Xbox. And you got to remember, too, Xbox may start with one policy. It may start with, yeah, sure, we'll put everything out on PS5. It may change its mind very quickly, and all of a sudden, those games that you thought you were getting on PS5, you're not getting, and then we'll have to hear you guys complain and whine and moan again. So it's a fluid situation. This literally just happened yesterday. I'm glad that we were able to record this today when it's still fresh and hot, though I do, in some ways, wish we could have waited a couple more days to kind of see how all this stuff shakes out, because I think information will continue to come out about this that will make the situation more clear. But bottom line is, there is no denying this is the biggest shot of the Generation 9 console war. This is...
Well, they're still hinting that they're going to buy more.
Right.
That this is not the end of it.
Which is insane, because they just spent $8 billion.
Yeah. I have a pet suspicion, and it probably wouldn't be immediately because you just spent $8 billion, like you said. By the middle of this generation, I will not be surprised if Microsoft owns Sega.
I wouldn't either. Look, it's a match made in heaven. Xbox has been trying to break into Japan since the original Xbox. It does make sense. It totally does. I'm sure
Sega would like some money.
I mean, the crazy part is I cannot think of...
You know what the crazy part of that is, though? If they did that, Persona's an Xbox game. How weird
in a roundabout way, yeah, because Sega,
because they own Atlas.
That's right. So that's true.
Persona would
again,
Tensei
it would be a huge help for them in Japan, without a doubt. I mean, at least it would keep them from flatlining at launch, like it usually does.
Imagine having to buy an Xbox to play Sonic.
I mean, I think Persona's even more of a deeper cut if you're Japanese. Like, can you imagine being Japanese and being forced to buy an Xbox to play Persona?
I mean, I think of Sonic as a pretty universal character.
Yeah.
Because, he's a Sega console character that got just, kind of was forced away out of his home and to all the various platforms because Sega dissolved as a console manufacturer. But I'm sure there's a ton of people that have grown up playing that on a Nintendo platform or on a Sony platform that would be weirded out. I mean, I don't even own it. I think I don't even own any Sonic games for Xbox.
I don't either, I don't think. No, I have Sonic 06 for Xbox, the worst one.
For 360. Yeah, that's true.
That is the only one, though. I hear you, though. Can you think of, other than Take-Two / Rockstar Games, can you think of another acquisition that would have moved the needle more? I don't think EA would do it. I don't think...
Probably not.
Maybe Ubisoft? Maybe?
I mean, Ubisoft would have, but Ubisoft would have been
Because you're talking about Elder
Ubisoft might be too
Scrolls.
big.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything bigger than Elder Scrolls. I mean, Cyberpunk may end up becoming, and maybe Witcher.
We'll see. Like, Elder Scrolls is an interesting thing because, like, I mean, ESO does well, but like, and they did confirm that ESO will continue on all platforms.
That's right.
There's no plan for that. But Elder Scrolls is interesting because like it's obviously a hit. Skyrim is huge, but most of the people I know that love Skyrim don't even know it's called Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Like they don't even realize it's
right.
part
It's
5
just Skyrim. Yeah. Or it's Morrowind or
Right. So
the subtitle will be most important, but
yeah, the Elder Scrolls thing is an interesting question because it's going to be so long. You know, I don't think it's going to be 2025 minimum before we play Elder Scrolls 6.
Yep.
Agreed.
And
we
have how much weight? I mean, look at Bethesda in general. How much weight is there right now? Not a lot.
Right.
Because we still got Starfield still a couple years away. Elder Scrolls is...
Skyrim was what, 2011?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
So we're looking, it might be 15 years between Elder Scrolls.
I know. I mean, look, here's the thing. Bethesda
Even
needs
Kingdom Hearts 3 had more shit in between them than that. I mean,
Bethesda's got to step it up, man. Like they're not privately owned anymore. Like they have overlords now. There's a lot of things that Bethesda has been doing that it's going to have to change. But I'll be honest with you, Microsoft will help with all that. The resources that they'll have there, the libraries, the engine resources, all that. Also, they did say, too...
You're just going to open and Steam's going to pour in and Rod Ferguson is going to stride in and be like, all right, boys, let's get a game made.
Yeah.
We're going to Bioshock Infinite this Starfield thing. Like, it's... But, I mean, for sure, like, they do necessarily... I mean, I'm not saying they're as bad as Star Citizen or anything.
Yeah.
But, like, there does seem to be that element of, like, what is...
going on
so long.
Yeah.
And then it comes out and it's the same fucking engine. It's the same problems. The same,
well,
like
I'm sure you saw, Matt.
And it's just like,
Todd Howard did say brand new engine for both Starfield and Elder Scrolls.
Finally.
Yeah. So that's good news. But anyway, Megaton. I don't say Megaton very often because it's overused in the gaming industry. But this is a freaking Megaton. It is gigantic. Yeah. To know that Microsoft isn't done yet, that just makes it all the more interesting. But this is a big move that should absolutely make a difference in Generation 9.
I wish it had happened on Wednesday, though, because then it would have been the Wednesday ton.
Right.
You remember that?
I do. Yep, I absolutely do. So anyway, that's our final topic for episode 229. We do have a big Q&A set up for you guys because I asked you guys to submit questions on the website and on Twitter, and you guys came through. Before we get to that, here's a word from our sponsor. Do you live life outdoors? DeShazer Ryan Realty has a nice level lot just outside of Libby, Montana that's perfect for you. With access to Crystal Lake via shared dock and boat ramp, it's an ideal location to build the getaway home of your dreams or just park your RV. Enjoy fishing, paddleboarding, kayaking, boating, and more just a few steps away. It can be yours for just $72,500. No matter where you live, contact Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643 or DeShazerMT@gmail.com. Even if you're not looking for property in Montana, he can connect you with local realtors in your area who can help you. If you want to see more, head over to DeShazerRyanRealty.com. That's DeShazerRyanRealty.com. Thanks again to DeShazer Ryan Realty. As I say every week, let's keep the money in the family. If you're a sifter and you're looking for property or a house or anything, get in contact with him. He can help you no matter where you live. Again, let's keep the money in the family. First question comes from Derek D111. He asks, will Microsoft tell Bethesda proper to hurry up with their releases? We actually just kind of talked about this. Yes, I think they will.
I think they will.
Yeah.
I think they would at least like Elder Scrolls 6 before the end of the generation.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to let Bethesda get away with taking 12 years to develop games anymore. It's just not going to happen, even though, like Pete Hines from Bethesda said that nothing's changed for us. We're still our own thing, and they're going to let... we'll see about that.
Creatively, I'm sure, but in terms of actual like deliverables, I bet there will be some more concrete milestones.
There's going to be some visits to the Death Star before it's all said and done, guaranteed. Next from OTAPS, or OTT Apps. Who had the better or worse pre-order strategy for consumers out of Sony or Microsoft? Can you think of any protocol systems or ideas that might improve pre-orders in the future and make it any fairer and more reliable? Is it down to Sony or Microsoft, retailers, or both? Great question. I don't know that we have an answer for it. We tried to figure it out.
I do think most of the difficulties on this were retailer focused. The website's not working properly. Going live too early with the PS5.
Yeah, just not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Like there's more coordination is maybe needed, but and the other thing, and maybe this is impossible because they don't know yet, because you don't know till the factories have spun up and done all this stuff. But it seems like they definitely need to communicate more clearly to the retailers how many they're getting,
and when they should put them on sale.
Yeah,
there's only so much you can do with that. So GameStop was the one who broke first. And I have a feeling that GameStop was just like, you know what? This is probably the last time we're ever going to sell a PlayStation console, so F it. Like, I just think they were like...
Didn't have a lot to lose.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, the PlayStation 6 probably is just going to be some dongle that you plug into a USB port. So what do we care?
And also, you really think GameStop's still going to be around?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. They won't even be around. All bets are off for them at this point. They're just trying to keep their head above water, so... I don't think we were able to come to an answer, although I would say any way that they can figure out how to get rid of bots. That, to me, job one. If they can figure out how to stop bots from pre-ordering crap, it will change everything for the better. So somebody out there, get on that. Somebody will figure it out. Then these retailers can license it from you, and then launch days for everything will be better forever. Next up, from NeoJD. Now that Xbox bought ZeniMax, has the tune about Phil Spencer changed? Oh, I think this one's directed at me, Matt.
Yeah.
It's finally clear he's delivered on building Xbox back up. Sure, exclusives may take time to materialize, and Bethesda's games might still be multi-platform, but Xbox with Game Pass is just crazy now. I agree with that, that Xbox with Game Pass is crazy now. However, I disagree with who should get the credit necessarily for where Microsoft is right now. Phil Spencer didn't write that check for $7.5 billion. There are people who are much higher up the chain who had to vet that sale, okay the sale, and then write the check for the sale. So I'll say this, though. Look, we tend to blame the figurehead when everything goes wrong. So maybe we should give more credit to the figurehead when things do go right, even if they're not responsible for it. So I guess from that perspective, I can understand where you may be coming at me that way. As far as do I regret saying that Phil Spencer should have been fired like 2 years ago? No, he should have been fired back then. It took him 2 years to get it to where it is now, and it's still not great. Let's be honest. It's going to be another 2 or 3 years until it is where it is. So no, and
even then we won't know until then if it even worked.
Yeah. So look, if he had actually started this process back when I said he should probably be canned, we'd be in the money right now, bro. The games would be here now. If he had bought all those studios and bought Bethesda 2 years ago, we'd be having a completely different conversation about Generation 9. We just would. And we're not, because he didn't. It took him too long. So look, I really struggle to give credit to people for fixing problems that they created. That seems to be a very common thing in our society lately. I really screwed up and I caused a problem, but I'm going to fix it now, and you better give me credit for fixing it. That is garbage, and that has been happening. Our president is the king of that. He causes a problem, then comes in and tries to fix it and tries to take credit for it. No, that's not how it works. And that's not how it's going to work with Phil Spencer for me either. So I do give him credit. He has turned around Xbox at least a little bit. He has improved in his position since 2 years ago when I felt like he should be fired. So I will give him that credit. But as they say, it takes a village, and it's not just him.
I mean, you did talk about like buying Bethesda 2 years ago. I would argue that Bethesda wouldn't have been for sale.
That's possible.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
I do wonder. That comment made me wonder like what the breaking point was on Bethesda, or where Bethesda finally said, "Okay, like,
yeah, well,
we'll entertain buyer offers at this point." My guess would be Fallout 76.
Yes, I mean, just look at Bethesda's last 2 years, Matt. It's been rough. Yeah. I mean, they've put out good games, but nobody buys them and no one cares. So, other than Doom, Like you look
I
at like
feel like
Dishonored
Fallout
2 and
I thought
Prey,
Fallout
and
76 was supposed to be like the piggy bank for the next few years, and it didn't work out that way.
now they need a lifeline.
Change the direction.
Yep. Here's a good one from the Surly Mexican. Which Bethesda game should Microsoft allow to be on other consoles, and which ones should they keep exclusive to the Microsoft ecosystem?
I mean, we did talk about that a bit.
A little bit.
I think that's more of a question of like of money. Like,
it's hard to figure out. Yeah.
If you're gonna make, basically you got to figure out if you think Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 are gonna do Skyrim numbers.
Yep. Pretty much.
And if they are, it's probably more lucrative to have it on everything.
Agreed.
Something like Prey or Dishonored might be more of a nice boutique Xbox exclusive thing.
Yep. Because you're going to sell your 3 or 4 million on your platform instead of spreading them out like 1.5 on each platform. You might as well give people incentive to buy your platform.
Yeah.
I agree.
The inevitable Doom crossover in the Halo Infinite multiplayer mode. Keep that on Xbox, I'd say.
Yep. Last question. This comes from @OCDM4. He or she asks, do you think Microsoft will try to buy one of the Japanese game publishers? Again, we kind of answered this already. Which one would make sense for them to buy? Matt, you were all over it already.
Yeah, I mean,
Sega.
My guess would be Sega. I can't really think of
Sega Sammy. Actually, now it is.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone that would be like equivalently useful.
Microsoft may not want to get into the pachinko business, but
no, I mean, you could probably separate that.
You could,
out.
yeah.
You could sell that some people saying From Software, but they're already owned by a conglomerate, so I don't think that would work. I
mean, Capcom.
I mean, I guess you could buy Capcom. You could buy Namco.
I would rather buy Capcom though. I don't want Namco Bandai's like licensed crap. I just don't. You want your own IP that you own. You don't want to make all your money on other IP.
Might be a big enough company that it would be unfeasible to because you'd have to buy Namco from Bandai.
Right. That's true. Yep.
That would be complicated.
How crazy would it be if Namco became its own thing again someday?
Yeah.
Instead of being a part of some mashup.
I mean, like Capcom probably makes the most sense outside of Capcom might make more sense than Sega.
It does because it makes Western games or games that sell in the West way more than Sega does. But on the flip side of that, they're trying to get inroads into Japan. I don't know if that market even matters anymore, Matt. It's so small now. But that's one way to do it. You know, getting in with Sega, that could help. I think that Sega would help more with that, I guess I would say.
Yeah,
in Japan than Capcom would.
I mean, really, it's getting Atlas in that situation that would
Japan big time
get the Japan market
absolutely
over a barrel more than anything else, really.
Yeah, and I would say after Capcom, I'd probably say second most likely
Square.
Yeah, Square Enix, because they also have great Western games or games that at least the Westerns are interested in. And that's a big step.
I bet you, if you're Microsoft, like sure, it'd be nice to have Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest under your belt, but you're taking a look at that. You got Marvel license in there. You got Crystal Dynamics. You got Deus Ex. I bet Microsoft would like to get a shot at Deus Ex. I bet they could turn that into something in a way that Square Enix never managed to.
It's possible.
So there's a lot of possibilities, but at the same, then you start to wonder about like, okay, who's left? Like you're really like consolidating a lot of IP and brain power under one roof
already. Yeah. I mean, do we want Microsoft to do more of this? I don't know that I do.
Like I don't know.
I think I'm cool.
If it comes down to like the question of it's like a Obsidian thing. It's like it comes down to like, does Microsoft buy them or they go away? Like, yeah, Microsoft buys.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But like, does Capcom need to be bought right now? No. Like Capcom's fine. Yep. Which would probably be the biggest obstacle to that acquisition in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Microsoft has a pretty darn good stable of development teams.
Hell yeah!
Now. And I think before they start throwing more money at new toys, they should see what these.
They should play with the toys they own already. Absolutely. All right, so there you go. That's GameFace 229. I don't have a timer, but I believe that this show has gone way over, and it's 1080p, so it's going to be a long process for us to get this out to you guys. But anyway. We just want to make sure we're getting episodes out to you folks. This is a big time of year, and even though we're having problems with our TriCaster right now, we're going to buckle down and just get episodes to you guys however we can. If you're listening to GameFace out on the wilds of the internet, maybe you're on Stitcher or iHeartRadio or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or anywhere, and you love the show and you're getting 3 hours plus of entertainment out of every week, and you want the show to keep coming, head on over to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD. And kick us a couple bucks a month if you want to keep this show coming. We got
one more plug before we go.
Sure.
Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is out now on Xbox, PlayStation 4, and Steam. Used to be Epic Store exclusive.
Yep.
So if you have not played that and you like X-Wing and Wing Commander and those kind of games, go check out Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. It's great, and it's by a really scrappy little indie team.
Matt's Black Horror's Goaty pick from last year. Yep.
Loved it.
And now it's out on other platforms, so check it out.
I bought it again on Xbox. Like I'm here to support the games I like, to keep getting them made. And particularly if you haven't played it and you were waiting for Epic Game exclusivity to end, go get that thing on Steam. It's really great.
Yep. And if you don't want to leave YouTube, I know a lot of you people are like that. You like to stay in YouTube's ecosystem. You can now subscribe to Sifted on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/SiftedGames. And there's a button there where you can join, and you'll get GameFace and Pactor Factor and all other content day and date with our patrons. Also, if you're interested in following us on Twitter, you can follow Sifted Games at Sifted Games. If you are following the show on any of these podcast services, you want to know when the stream might go live or when the archive of an episode is up, you need to follow us there. And as I said earlier, you can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. And you can find Matt on Twitter at mkyle. That's Keil. So on behalf of Matt and our non-existent TriCaster TD, GameFace is up and out.